Chapter 540. Lu Yuan was patrolling near the center of the barrier. Under Su Fang's control, the divine image Jade Wall released Lu Yuan's aura, releasing the Supreme Tao Artifact's aura. Although the divine image Jade Wall was confident that it would not be discovered by the spiritual camel Immortal Cauldron, Su Fang still pondered. He transmitted a message. Lu Yuan, if the spiritual camel Immortal Cauldron really senses the divine image Jade Wall's aura and is discovered, the Tao artifact will be yours. Master is really meticulous. Although my opponent is the Xinyuan Empire, it is my fortune to follow Master. He did not forget to flatter Su Fang. The divine image Jade Wall had already released its senses and was slowly approaching the center of the barrier. Although they already had a way to deal with the unexpected situation, Lu Yuan and Su Fang were still on tenterhooks. They hoped that nothing would go wrong. Buzz. Not long after, Su Fang's mind had a reaction. The divine image Jade Wall's original spirit, Yu-Er, appeared. As Yu-Er predicted, the spiritual camel Immortal Cauldron is not a powerful Tao artifact. It is just a cauldron used to refine artifacts. It seems to have the ability to create an artifact. Its original spirit is very mature, but it is far below Yu-Er's ability. Furthermore, it is fused with an immortal and is not in a small world. Therefore, the experts of the Xinyuan Empire can only use 1/3 of its power. It is good that it is an ordinary Tao artifact. It seemed like he had underestimated the divine image Jade Wall. It was mainly because the spiritual camel Immortal Cauldron was a Tao artifact. Its power was unimaginable, and he could not figure it out. However, now that the spiritual camel Immortal Cauldron could not sense the divine image Jade Wall's aura, Su Fang was relieved. Yu-Er said again, Master, there is no fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel in the Immortal Cauldron. Su Fang nodded. If that is the case, then I would be able to sense it a little. I thought that the Tao artifact could really hide my aura from the fragment. He was a little disappointed and could only continue to wait. However, just as the divine image Jade Wall was about to retract its senses, it suddenly sensed something. It is the origin aura of the human emperor world. Oh, it is not an ordinary origin aura. Sense it carefully. It sits the origin source stone of the mortal emperor world. Origin source Yuan stone. There are origin source Yuan stones in the spiritual camel Immortal Cauldron. There's no mistake. Apart from origin Yuan stones, there shouldn't be such a strong aura. The divine image, Jade, Annulus, sensing aura instantly disappeared along with Lu Yuan's aura. The Xinyuan Empire is really powerful. Not only did they find an origin source in the human emperor world, they even found an origin source Yuan stone. If we add in the many seals they used to break the human emperor Ming wheel fragment, wouldn't we be able to easily use the fragment to find the inheritance of the human emperor world lord? Damn it, I have to think of a way. Even if I can't obtain the inheritance, I can't let the Xinyuan Empire have their way. At worst, I'll just fight to the death. Sitting on pins and needles, this was Su Fang's current mood. He never imagined that the Xinyuan Empire would be able to obtain the origin vitality stone of the mortal emperor world. It was beyond his imagination. One could see how much effort the Xinyuan Empire had put in for the mortal emperor world. Seeing that Su Fang was deep in thought, Lu Yuan did not disturb him and continued patrolling the area. However, after a short while, someone arrived at the secret array formation. Your Highness, more than a dozen people arrived. 4 of them descended like emperors. It turned out that they were the 4 great lords of the Xinyuan Empire on the divine origin planet, overseeing the east, south, west, and north. The dozen people that came with them were all big shots like the Grand Elder. Every one of them was at the feather transformation realm. Lu Yuan and the others knelt down to greet them. From his eyes, Su Fang stared at the 4 great lords of the Xinyuan Empire. All of them looked middle-aged and wore golden robes and feathery clothes. They wore crowns that looked like dragon pearls on their heads. Su Fang's heart skipped a beat. They are too powerful. Li Ziqing's strength is not comparable to them. Only the Lord of 5 Poisons is stronger. If the Lord of 5 Poisons had reached his peak, he would definitely be above them. At this moment, he was so far away from the four great lords of the Xinyuan Empire. Even if he was hiding in his divine aperture, he could still feel the terrifying aura of an overlord. The four great lords ordered everyone to retreat 10 feet. They walked step by step to the restriction where the spiritual camel immortal cauldron was. The four of them quietly discussed. The origin source Yuan stone of the human emperor world has been in the spiritual camel immortal cauldron for more than 10,000 years. It should have refined a lot of the origin source. This way, as long as most of the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel are put into the immortal cauldron and let the fragments absorb a certain amount of origin source energy, we will be able to activate the origin source energy in the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. We will then be able to find the secret of the treasure and sense the inheritance space left behind by the human emperor world lord. If all goes well, the third prince will be able to enter the immortal cauldron and absorb the origin source Yuan stone. He will also be able to absorb some essence from the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. The third prince will be able to grasp a certain amount of the human emperor world's origin source first. Only then will it be easier for us to help him fuse with the inheritance and refine the origin source of the world when he finds the inheritance. Everything is under our control. The third prince will definitely succeed and become the human emperor world lord. The empire has spent a lot of effort and meticulously prepared for tens of thousands of years. After a while, we'll be able to achieve our goal. When the third prince becomes the human emperor world lord, our Xinyuan Empire will become the only unrivaled force in this small world that can control two world lords at the same time. When will the third prince arrive? Royal Brother is leading the experts of the empire. Together with the power passed down from above, they are collectively helping the third prince to cleanse his marrow and fuse with the mortal emperor world's origin that has been absorbed and implanted into his body over the years. It should be soon. Then we can act without worry. Let's put the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel into the spiritual camel immortal cauldron and let the immortal cauldron refine the essence of the primordial stone to nourish the fragment. Besides, there's also the essence of the Xinyuan Empire in it. After everything is fused, make your preparations. We just need to wait for the third prince to come out of seclusion and enter the immortal cauldron. Then we can directly absorb the immortal cauldron and activate the fragments to find that treasure and the inheritance of the human emperor. All right, the four of them whispered to each other. Their voices contained a certain amount of power that suppressed the surroundings. This prevented the experts behind them from releasing their divine might and eavesdropping on their conversation. However, they were unable to suppress the hearing of great perfection paragons. Su Fong, who was hidden in his 6 origin divine aperture, used his 6 origin divine aperture to release his aura and sense of hearing. He heard every word of the conversation between the four princes. He had actually heard the top secret of the Xinyuan Empire. He had even heard the entire process of obtaining the inheritance of the human emperor and the world lord. The third prince is despicable. My chance is right before the third prince arrives. I have to think of a way to get the primordial stone in the immortal cauldron and the secret of the treasure inside most of the fragments. What should I do? Even if he knew what the Xinyuan Empire was planning, what could he do? The security was so tight, especially when everything was locked in the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. Seeing Su Fong frowning in his divine aperture, 6 origin divine aperture, who had been kneeling, also felt uncomfortable. He sighed and said, "Master, it would be great if we could enter the immortal cauldron and take away all the treasures." Enter the immortal cauldron? These 4 words suddenly opened up Su Fong's muddled mind. It was like the beginning of the chaos, and the world was clear and bright. You reminded me. Why can't I enter the spiritual camel immortal cauldron? Master, I'm just kidding. But I'm not kidding. I'm really just saying it casually. Master, the spiritual camel immortal cauldron is controlled by the Xinyuan Empire. If you go in, aren't you just delivering yourself to the Xinyuan Empire to be suppressed? That's a Tao item. Once you go in, they will seal the Tao item. Can you still come out? It's dangerous. Then don't think about it. It's not easy to enter the Tao item, and it's even more impossible to leave it. Then what if I hide in the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel that I fused with? No, definitely not. At that time, the four marquises and maybe even more experts will work together to activate all the fragments and sense the location of the human emperor's world lord's inheritance. The divine aura will spread to every corner of the fragment. Master, you won't have anywhere to hide. Their divine aura is terrifying. They're all Ascension Realm experts. It's hard to find one Ascension Realm expert among 10,000 Catastrophe Realm experts. I know that if I enter the fragment and get sensed by them, I'll definitely fall into an irreversible situation. Master, if something really happens to you, I'll be a sinner. In my life, I've done many things. I've also done many big things. For example, I broke into the Shinja Gate, entered the Seven Stars Demon Island, and the Great Ape Demon Tomb. My opponents were more or less existences that had gone through the Xinyuan Empire. Right now, I'm still alive and well. Moreover, all these adventures made me understand one thing. As long as the adventure is built on a certain foundation, there's a possibility of success. The human emperor's bright wheel fragment that I fused with was obtained by the great Emperor Dipper. They sensed it, but did not find my aura within it. This means that I've already stepped into the door of success. Now, as long as I take a few more steps forward, I'll truly have success. A horse won't get fat without eating at night. A man won't get rich without a windfall. I've decided. I'll sneak into the spiritual camel immortal cauldron and hide in the fragment. I'll quietly absorb the power of the human emperor's world's origin spirit stone. I'll be one step ahead of the third prince and steal the secret. This is undoubtedly stealing food from the tiger's mouth. People say that you can't touch the tigers, but I'll go and touch it. Su Fang finally made up his mind. Sneak into the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. Lu Yuan did not expect Su Fang to be so resolute. He had mentioned the seriousness of the matter several times, but he still could not change Su Fang's mind. He did not understand why a cultivator with an ordinary cultivation, who was not even in the catastrophe realm, dared to have such heaven-defying courage. Was he not afraid? The four marquises waited for a while, then released their sensing power and poured it into the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. After sensing for a while, the four of them suddenly grab a restriction at the same time. The aura within the restriction disappeared as the restriction disappeared. The aura of the human emperor's bright wheel fragment began to surge out. The human emperor's bright wheel fragment. It was finally time to appear. Buzz! For rays of light flew into the restriction. In other words, they flew into the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. Guards, listen to my orders. Without the orders of the marquises, no one is allowed to take a step closer. One of the marquises ordered Lu Yuan's group of four. Then, the four marquises led the experts out of the barrier. After the marquises left, only the four patrolling experts were left. Lu Yuan said bitterly, Master, if you really want to enter the immortal cauldron, you have to think of a way quickly. The four of us only have 3 months to patrol. Once the 3 months are up, it will be the others' turn to patrol. From the looks of it, I can't stay here for long. There is a way. It depends on how much of a Tao artifact's power the spiritual camel immortal cauldron releases in this small world. The less, the better. If it releases too much of its divine power, it will be difficult for me to enter quietly and get closer. Yes. Su Fang began to form hand seals. He released his will and secretly used his divine power. Among the countless fragments in the immortal cauldron, the fragment that he had fused with gradually released the power of the young, nascent soul hidden within. Then, he absorbed the human emperor world's essence from his body and unleashed the power of the divine image Jade Annulus. When Lu Yuan approached the central barrier, and the other 3 were not paying attention, it instantly flew out of Lu Yuan's glabella. Whoosh! When the divine image Jade Annulus's power and ability came into contact with the restriction, it began to use the human emperor's essence aura to conceal itself at the weakest point. When Lu Yuan saw that the 3 of them were about to patrol the central barrier, He was so frightened that his heartbeat quickened. Master, quickly! Chapter 541. How could Lu Yuan not be afraid? They could be discovered at any moment. If they were discovered, both he and Su Fong might die here today. The divine image Jade Annulus used the origin of the Renhuang world in Su Fong's body to fuse with the weakest part of the seal. Just as the three experts walked towards the center, Xian Guang suddenly disappeared with Su Fong from the array. Brother Lu, I'm just wondering when I can become an unparalleled giant in the Empire. Don't think too much. Who doesn't want to become a true expert? Let's finish the mission first. Don't let anything go wrong. With just a few words, Lu Yuan drew everyone's attention away from him. Inside the seal. That's the human camel immortal cauldron. Su Fong, who was in the divine image Jade Annulus, was using the divine image Jade Annulus's power. Otherwise, he would have been discovered by the experts of the Xinyuan Empire. But the power of a Tao artifact was beyond the power of a cultivator from a smaller world. No matter how strong the Xinyuan Empire was, it could not be above a Tao artifact. The divine image Jade Annulus protected Su Fong's sand-like luster as it slowly approached the center of the cauldron, floating in the infinite spiritual light. The spiritual camel immortal cauldron. It was like a camel, and the cauldron was built on the camel's peak. Master, only 1/3 of the spiritual camel immortal cauldron's power has been activated. This array is also a spirit-gathering array. It absorbs the spiritual qi of the Renhuang world from the underground palace into the cauldron. It should be for the fragment of the Renhuang Ming chakra and the third prince's future cultivation. It's helpful to us. It's very helpful. Can hide his aura and fuse with the spiritual qi outside the array to enter the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. It's also a Tao artifact. So what? Is very powerful. In truth, the difference between Tao treasures is like the difference between cultivators. The spiritual camel immortal cauldron is a low-level Tao treasure, while is a high-level Tao treasure. Just like how experts can release their young, nascent souls to silently enter the minds of the weak, can also enter the spiritual camel immortal cauldron space. Really, it turned out that the difference in quality between Tao artifacts also caused Tao artifacts to be like human cultivators. Ordinary Tao artifacts could be trampled on by high-grade Tao artifacts. If that was the case, then the immortals of the great world would never be able to possess high-quality Tao artifacts and would never be able to become experts. In that case, it was not difficult to understand why so many people were determined to obtain the Xinjia Gate, as well as the Cloud Sky Lightning Sword that was obtained by Xue Wuying and Huang Lingyao in the Jingluo Water region. Even the divine image Jade Annulus was being fought over by countless experts. Su Fong's heartbeat gradually froze. I have already allowed the fragments that have fused with the immortal cauldron to control a portion of the fragments within the cauldron, forming an imposing aura layer to welcome us. This way, the immortal cauldron's primordial spirit won't discover us. 2/3 of its power is still sleeping. Who asked there to be no immortals here to activate it? Giggled. The power of the divine image Jade Annulus that was protecting Su Fong merged with a large amount of mortal Emperor World's primordial spirit from the surrounding array and finally began to enter the immortal cauldron along with the countless spiritual sources. As they approached the immortal cauldron, the power of the Tao artifacts swept over. Although it was not as powerful as the divine image Jade Annulus, it was still extremely shocking. It was more powerful than the Rakshasa Jade Vase and the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. However, it was too weak compared to the divine image Jade Annulus. Compared to the Cloud Sky Lightning Sword, it was even more incomparable, let alone the Xinjia Gate. Whoosh! It entered. The power of the divine image Jade Annulus, along with the vast spiritual sources, entered the immortal cauldron world. And the world was filled with the roaring, mortal Emperor World's primordial spirit. The Xinyuan Empire was too powerful. They had prepared so much primordial spirit to let the third prince become the master of the mortal Emperor World. The Xinyuan Empire had such a meticulous plan. They did not expect that someone would come to steal their fruit. And it was not even a feather transformation realm cultivator, but a young, nascent soul realm cultivator. Su Fong sneered. It's mine. It's all mine. The power of the divine image, Jade Annulus, controlled the spiritual sources to go deeper. He seemed to be able to see a shocking spiritual light floating in the depths of the array in the center. Master, with these primordial spirit stones and the mortal emperor world's primordial spirit in the depths, you will definitely be able to take the opportunity to merge with the fragments of the bright wheel of the human emperor. You will take the opportunity to absorb most of the primordial spirit and then be one step ahead of others to obtain the inheritance of the human emperor. One step at a time. On the contrary, there was not a trace of excitement on his face. He understood that the more easily he was in a situation like this, the more he could not be careless. He had to be cautious, even more cautious. The Xinyuan Empire has prepared a nutritious meal for me. The primordial spirit stones have already been refined by them. They are just waiting for the third prince to merge with them. In the center, in addition to the countless primordial spirit stones of the human emperor world, there was also a snow-white spiritual light. This spiritual light was the state of the primordial spirit stones of the human emperor world. It was waiting for Su Fong to absorb it. And in the spiritual light, a spiritual light that had merged with the primordial spirit stones slowly shot out. It merged with the divine image, Jade Annulus. This spiritual light guided the divine image, Jade Annulus, into the primordial spirit stones of the primordial spirit stones. Immediately, hundreds of fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel of various sizes floated in the primordial spirit stones. There are so many fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. How many people did the Xinyuan Empire and the Doichi have to kill to get them? Amidst the exclamation, faint thoughts burst out from his eyes. A familiar, ordinary shard flew over to him. It was the fragment that he had merged with. Buzz! Under Su Fong's hand seal, the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel emitted a luster that enveloped the divine image, Jade Annulus. The latter immediately escaped into the fragment. It's safe now. After entering the fragment space, only then did he let out a sigh of relief. With you are the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel, the essence of the primordial spirit stones, and the primordial spirit of the spiritual camel immortal cauldron will not discover its master. But master, you have to be careful. You cannot completely absorb the primordial spirit stones of the human emperor world. Once the primordial spirit stones of the human emperor world disappear, it will be so obvious that it will definitely be detected by the immortal cauldron. Secondly, you cannot take away these fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. If the fragments disappear, the immortal cauldron will also appear. Yue reminded him. Thank you, Yue. With you around this time, I've saved a lot of trouble. Yes, the master can use the fragment to protect you and take the opportunity to absorb the essence of the primordial spirit stones through the fragment. Even if the immortal cauldron appears, it will only think that the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel is absorbing the power of the primordial spirit stones. You are responsible for sensing the immortal cauldron's every move. It was time to start. This was to blatantly pluck the fruit that the Xinyuan Empire had spent so much effort to cultivate and mature under the eyes of the Xinyuan Empire. Anyone would be so excited to pluck someone else's fruit that they would rub their hands together, especially when it was a tiger's head. Buzz, activating the power of the 9 suns and fusing with his great perfection physical body, he immediately activated the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel. Through the fragment, he absorbed the essence of the primordial spirit stones into the space and greedily absorbed it into his body. This primordial spirit stone is not small. It might be about the same size as the primordial spirit stone obtained from the great ape demon tomb. Because the primordial spirit stone had already been melted by the Xinyuan Empire, Su Fong was only absorbing it. The speed was too fast, and it did not consume any energy for him. Master, it's time for me to leave. I will wait for your triumphant return. Unknowingly, some time had passed. Lu Yuan transmitted a thought to him. It was the turn of the next group of experts to patrol. This time, there was no one outside to provide support. This undoubtedly put Su Fong in an absolute danger. Fortunately, he had the divine image Jade Annulus. Moreover, with the Xinyuan Empire's control over the spiritual camel immortal cauldron, he could activate 2/3 of the divine image Jade Annulus power. It was more than the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. Comfortable. I don't know if it's because the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda absorbed the world's primordial spirit stone from the sect master, or because I absorbed the world's primordial spirit stone from the Zhuotian realm, Wutan realm, and even some immortal primordial realms, allowing my physical body to fuse with the essence of the primordial spirit stones from the human emperor realms. Everything flowed naturally. The moment it entered my body, it perfectly fused with the yang energy. This feeling is too wonderful. I estimate that in less than a year, more than half of the primordial spirit stone's essence will be absorbed by me. Su Fong smiled. He was very pleased with himself. Prince Shui, what a coincidence. The divine image Jade Annulus was protecting Su Fong's aura. It was also releasing the power of a Dao artifact to sense the immortal cauldron's aura. Through the spirit gathering array, Su Fong could actually sense Prince Shui's aura. He used his hearing. After some time, he heard someone speaking outside. It was indeed Prince Shui. It was his turn to patrol. Before long, Yu reminded him, "Master, there's a big shot approaching. It's the Great Emperor Dipper." The Great Emperor Dipper's cultivation was too strong. That was why Yu had to remind Su Fong. Su Fong continued to control the fragment to absorb the essence of the human emperor realm's primordial spirit stones. Even if someone discovered that the primordial spirit stone's essence was being absorbed by the fragment or had disappeared, they would naturally think that it was the fragment that absorbed the essence. This was because no one could fuse with the human emperor's bright wheel fragment. It was a broken artifact. Yu suddenly became serious. "Master, the Great Emperor Dipper is releasing his power. He's preparing to sense what's inside." Su Fong was certain. "Can you hide my aura?" "That's not a problem. He's very strong." Yu has absolute confidence that he won't sense him. However, if many big shots are sensing him, then Yu won't have absolute confidence. You just have to deal with the Great Emperor Dipper's senses. If more experts come to sense him, I'll directly use the Heavenly Secret Life shrinking technique to hide his senses. That's a supreme ability. Even immortals can't do anything to me. Yu understands. The divine image Jade Wall began to release its power. To be safe, he didn't continue to use the fragment to absorb the primordial spirit stone's essence. He began to hide in the depths of the formation and let the divine image Jade Wall control everything. The power of the Dao artifact was released. Su Fong could also clearly sense the overwhelming power. It came from the Great Emperor Dipper's supreme aura. It was as if he had transformed into a giant himself. It swept towards the space where the primordial spirit stone's essence was located, as well as all the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. At this moment, Su Fong's entire body was covered in cold sweat. His body began to feel cold. With the Dao artifact protecting him, he couldn't help but be wary of a supreme feather transformation realm powerhouse. That was a powerhouse that had survived the ninefold catastrophe. About 10 breaths later, the giant figure that sensed the power disappeared. Fortunately, the Great Emperor Dipper didn't waste his energy to enter every fragment to sense. Of course, although he was a feather transformation realm powerhouse, it was still difficult for him to enter hundreds of fragments to sense them. "Master is fine. Yu was so happy that he danced in front of him. It seems like I was too careful and cautious. It was as if I was walking on thin ice." Hundreds of fragments. Even if the Great Emperor Dipper was an invincible powerhouse, he couldn't instantly sense the space of every fragment in detail. "Indeed. Master, don't worry. However, more powerhouses will join forces to sense them in the future. When that time comes, I won't be afraid of them." Just like that, he passed this hurdle. It was daunting, but not dangerous. Although there was no danger, Su Fong was so shocked that he almost fainted during this period of time. He continued to absorb the essence of the primordial spirit stones. His body had already fused with a lot of essence. After the power of the world and the power of Yang merged, Su Fong felt that the human emperor's world had more mysterious auras. Time. As long as there was enough time, and it wouldn't take too long, he would be able to absorb most of the essence of the primordial spirit stones. He would be able to obtain all the treasures and leave before the third prince arrived. Chapter 542. After several months of absorption, Su Fong had obtained almost one-third of the essence of the origin stone. During this time, Prince Shui had also finished his patrol and left the formation. He had never imagined that he would encounter an enemy in this faraway world, a place unknown to the heavens and earth. But the funny thing was that the enemy had found him, but he didn't realize the danger at all. At this moment, Su Fong summoned the primordial spirit of the divine image Jade Annulus. I have to start trying to use the fused fragments to sense the other fragments and find the inheritance of the human Emperor World Lord, as well as the secret of that treasure. Said happily, let's do it. If Master thinks the time is right, then let's do it. In fact, even if the spiritual camel immortal cauldron detects Master's aura, it can't seal Its quality and strength are not even 1/10 of yours. Once is angry, even if it seals everything, can break the seal and escape. I'll take the opportunity to absorb some of the imperial essence that the experts of the Xinyuan Empire prepared for the third prince. This will make it easier for me to integrate everything here faster. After saying that, activating the shard, he began to absorb the essence of the divine origin empire in the vicinity of the shard. This was the power that the Xinyuan Empire prepared for the third prince. They let him enter the immortal cauldron and use the essence to integrate all the power here. But this time, Su Fong took advantage of it. Even if he couldn't absorb all of it, as long as he absorbed a part, not only would it strengthen Su Fong, but it would also prevent the third prince from integrating everything here in a short time. It's too easy to take advantage of this. If the great Emperor Dipper and the four great princes knew, as well as the countless experts of the Xinyuan Empire and the third prince, they would all be so angry that they would vomit blood and hunt me down all over the world. He secretly smiled proudly. But after a while, he frowned. This is not good. Previously, because of the Black Lotus True Body, I offended the Seven Star Child and the Green Lotus Sword sect. Now, I've offended the Xinyuan Empire and indirectly offended the Doichi. I've offended 3 unshakable enemies. If they're in trouble, do I still have a place in this small world? Master is brave. What is there to be afraid of? Once you have the strength and become the Realm Master, they can't activate the human Emperor world. You can use the power of the Realm Master to hide everywhere. Once you become strong, you will deal with them. Yes. At this moment, a large amount of the Xinyuan Empire's essence had entered his body. In addition to the origin source essence he was absorbing, his strength had reached the peak of the 9th tier of the Yang Infant realm. You can begin to attack the peak of Yang Infant Stage 10. He also had to make use of the time to absorb more of the origin essence and the power of the Xinyuan Empire. He had to plant abundant true qi in his 6 Yang meridians. It would be easier to break through to the 10th level in the future. After a while, Su Fong started to officially prepare to find the secret left behind by the human Emperor World Master. He activated the aura of the fused fragments and let the divine image Jade Annulus release its power. The Supreme Tao artifact's power used the origin essence and the origin essence as a cover. It immediately controlled all the fragments bit by bit and fused them into a 1-foot space. Then, Su Fong started to activate the power of the fused fragments. Because he had already fused with the fragments, when Su Fong's consciousness and divine power came into contact with the other hundreds of fragments, the fragments didn't reject him at all. Gradually, there was a reaction. The main reaction was Su Fong's consciousness entering the countless fragments, allowing the fragments to sense the fused divine power. It also allowed Su Fang's consciousness to easily enter the fragment space. He used the heavenly demon disintegration seal and pushed his young infant to the extreme. In this way, the power of his consciousness entering the different fragments also reached the extreme. Coupled with the power of his physical body, Su Fang could almost clearly sense the array formation and the size of the space within each fragment. He went directly to the depths. In the depths of each fragment was the place where the mysterious true runes were hidden. After reaching the depths of the center, Su Fang began to use the power of the fused fragments to extract the mysterious true runes from each fragment piece by piece. At first, it was difficult to extract them. There were several reasons. First, the young infant was separated into hundreds. The strength of each young infant was not strong. Not to mention, it was not easy to move the true runes. Second, the array formations of the shattered Dharma treasures were almost separated. It was not easy to control countless arrays. At this moment, he was like a child trying to move a peerless giant. For a long time, he didn't have any obvious gains. Therefore, he directly separated the mysterious true runes in the center of the fused fragment space into fragments. In this way, the true runes afterimage floated in the center of all the fragments. Then, he activated the true runes afterimage with all his strength. The effect was produced. When Su Fang was fusing the fragments, the true runes afterimage had already fused with Su Fang to a certain extent. Now that it had absorbed Su Fang's activation power, the true runes afterimage began to sizzle. Many of the true runes patterns on the afterimage became clearer. Then, he used the power of the true runes afterimage to fuse with the hundreds of consciousness. He controlled the faint aura of the true runes afterimage with his consciousness and fused it with the true runes afterimages in the depths of the fragments. He saw that because of the different sizes of the fragments, the true runes afterimages in each fragment were also different. There were even some very small fragments that didn't have any true runes afterimages. Under Su Fang's full activation and control, the true runes afterimages in the small fragment spaces finally began to be separated from the array formation bit by bit. Success. According to his research during this period of time, all the secrets of the human emperor's bright wheel fragment were in the mysterious true runes afterimages. The rest was the original power left behind by the human emperor's world lord. Once he fused with the true runes afterimages in the fragments, he should be able to obtain the secrets left behind by the human emperor's world lord. After days and nights of separation, a dozen or so true runes afterimages were extracted from the small fragments. Then, some of the larger fragments also began to move. As more and more true runes afterimages were extracted, with the true runes afterimage that Su Fang had fused as the core, the other true runes that had been extracted began to fuse together piece by piece with this true rune as the center. It looked a bit like a map. While extracting the true runes afterimages, Su Fang also unrestrainedly absorbed the pure original essence in the depths of the fragment. Once he absorbed it, the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel would lose its original power and become a true fragment. It could no longer be a magic treasure. This move could be considered as taking the firewood from under the cauldron. He wouldn't let the Third Prince or the Xinyuan Empire take advantage of it. Another few months passed. The true runes afterimages in front of Su Fang were almost complete. As the last two largest fragments separated into true runes afterimages, all the secrets of the fragments gathered in front of Su Fang. A diagram. A true runes immortal diagram that was filled with seals left behind by immortal runes. Su Fang secretly analyzed. This diagram is full of immortal chi. It can't be formed in a small world. Could it be that the human emperor's world lord drew it in a large world? The treasure inside is not in a small world. Master, more experts have come. It's the four marquises of the Xinyuan Empire, Yu said in a serious tone. Is that so? The four marquises came together. This is not good. Let's go back. The four marquises only came here for one purpose. They came to see how the immortal cauldron fused the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel and the origin stone's essence to fuse. Once they sensed it, their consciousness would inevitably penetrate into the depths of each fragment to check the mysterious true runes. Therefore, he had to disperse the mysterious true runes' immortal diagram that he had just obtained into the fragments again. Su Fong also said in a serious tone, This time you and I will work together to hide the formation in the depths of the fused fragments. I will use the heaven's secret life shrinking technique to deceive all senses. Okay, you also did not have absolute confidence at this time. She protected Su Fong and hid in the depths of the formation in the fragments. Then, the senses of the four giants fused and turned into a supreme giant that was directly sucked into the immortal cauldron world. Yu looked at the giant and fell down. It's here. Su Fong clasped his hands together. Fate and creation control the heaven's secret. Dust to dust, earth to earth, know me to nothingness. Buzz, his mind suddenly shook, and a vast and empty aura swept out. This aura caused the divine image, Jade, Annulus divine power, to instantly compromise. And Master, what kind of divine power is this? Fate, you are actually peeking into the heaven's secret. To deceive the heaven's secret is to deceive fate. So what if it's the heaven's secret? So what if it's fate? The heaven's secret represents the will of the heavenly Tao, and fate is controlled by the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao controls the fate of every living being, causing the myriad of worlds to submit to its power. Whether it's matter or living beings, they cannot surpass the heaven's secret of fate created by the heavenly Tao. So what? I want to surpass the heavenly Tao's control. Since I have become a void, this world no longer has a person like me. Su Fong coldly and arrogantly stared at the vast divine power that he sensed. Whoosh! He felt a buzzing sound inside the immortal cauldron. The divine power of the four giants swept through every corner and every layer of the formation. It caused no matter to be able to hide. It entered the hundreds of fragments again. This divine power slowed down. After entering the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel, it permeated through the various formations and finally reached the central restriction. At this moment, it was as if Su Fong and the divine image Jade Annulus did not exist. The divine power swept through the depths of the formation where the divine image Jade Annulus was, but it did not cause any disturbances. Master, that was close. Yu trembled. Su Fong looked at the divine power behind him. Don't worry. I have used the heaven's secret life shrinking technique several times. It is the method that helped me turn the situation around. I believe in it. The boundless divine power froze in the central formation where the true text afterimage was. After about a dozen breaths, the divine power in all the fragments disappeared. The fragments of the human emperor's bright will already have a certain amount of the human emperor's world's origin. This speed is not shocking, but it is a good start. Now, we can wait for the third prince to arrive. The secrets of that treasure are hidden in the countless fragments. That is a secret that the immortals of our empire in the great world discovered with great difficulty. We must find it and offer it to the experts of the great world. At that time, we can finally leave the small world. Even if we obtain the deity diagram of that treasure, we will have to temporarily stay in the small world and continue to help the third prince fuse with the human emperor's world lord. Su Fong heard the four marquises talking outside the formation again. So the Xinyuan Empire knows that there is a deity diagram in the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. This is too inexplicable. Isn't the human emperor's bright wheel refined by the human emperor's world lord? Why does the Xinyuan Empire know so much about it? There is clearly a secret inside. They are finally gone. Since the third prince is about to arrive, I have to speed up. After the four marquises left the formation, Su Fong began to extract true text afterimages from the fragments. At the same time, he absorbed the origin essence of each fragment. Chapter 543. Buzz streaks of true text shadows were extracted from the countless fragments again. It turned into a mysterious immortal painting with a weak immortal aura. Looking at the immortal diagram and seeing that it didn't have any flaws, he was delighted. How miraculous! The human emperor's bright wheel fragment turned into countless fragments, but when these fragments fuse back together, it's still perfect. This is a celestial mystical ability, and it is also an imprint left behind by a celestial. It is made up of many different seals. Master, do you want to unravel the secrets of the celestial diagram? With you or here, it won't be a problem. I'd better absorb the essence within the fragment first, as well as the external origin essence stones. I'll try to leave as soon as possible. That third crown prince might come to the mortal emperor world at any moment. When he enters the spiritual camel immortal cauldron and discovers my existence, I will not have the chance to obtain the inheritance. Put away the immortal map, then he absorbed the essence within the fragments and the external origin yuan stones. About a month later, Su Fong absorbed enough essence and began a plot to leave. What a pity. He had only absorbed less than half of the power inside the immortal cauldron, the essence of the origin stones, the fragments, and the power of the Xinyuan Empire. He could only leave as soon as possible. If he met the third prince in the immortal cauldron, he would be surrounded and killed by countless experts. The Jade Annulus immediately unleashed its power. During this time, Ewer had also absorbed a portion of the immortal cauldron's power. Naturally, the immortal cauldron did not appear. Using the immortal cauldron's own power and the opportunity of external energy pouring in, he protected Su Fong and immediately left the immortal cauldron. Pass through an enchantment. There were 4 martial art masters patrolling outside. When the 4 of them were some distance away, the divine image, Jade Annulus, turned into a natural aura in the air. Using the origin of the enchantment to hide, it suddenly disappeared into the array. Without 6 yuans, the divine image, Jade Annulus, could pass through the array formation layer by layer. The power of a Dao artifact was unimaginable. More importantly, it could even find the weakest point of the array formation. Su Fong met up with Lu Yuan in an uninhabited passageway. When Lu Yuan left the underground palace, he successfully left the layers of barriers created by countless experts of the Xinyuan Empire. You are still lurking around the great Emperor Dipper and gathering information. If the third prince comes to the mortal emperor world, you must inform me on time. Master, don't worry. Su Fong instantly burrowed into the ground and used the earth element ability of Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. In less than 2 hours, they arrived at the Grand Canyon in the distance. Brat, you succeeded. The 3 of them were none other than the Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Ziqing, and Sister Yu. Su Fong excitedly saluted. I have not failed in my mission. I have already obtained what I wanted. As long as I cultivate for a certain period of time, with the help of the 2 seniors, I will be able to use the aura I obtained from the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel and sense the place of inheritance of the human emperor world lord. Li Ziqing praised. That's great. The Xinyuan Empire is really going to get nothing this time. There's no time to lose. Junior will begin his preparations. They immediately returned to the depths of the Origin's underground space. Su Fong sat down with his legs crossed, using a large amount of the source of the Renhuang world. He began to use the 100 acupoints finger arts without restraint, fusing the various energies that he had absorbed. Good kid, you've also absorbed quite a bit of the essence of the Xinyuan Empire. It is indeed the aura of the Xinyuan Empire. I really want to know if the Xinyuan Empire will go crazy when they find out the truth. I don't know if they will go crazy, but they will definitely block our path of retreat and will not let us leave the human emperor world so easily. It was easy for us to come here and obtain the treasures, but the Xinyuan Empire will surround and kill us. They will not let us leave so easily. The biggest challenge has yet to come. You, and I need to prepare well. The 2 big shots also sat down and began to absorb the essence of the Origin's origin. It would be more convenient for them to use their abilities in the human emperor world in the future. In fact, Su Fong had heard their worries clearly. sneaking into the human emperor world and entering the immortal cauldron to steal the secrets and energy. These were all extremely difficult, but in the end, once the Xinyuan Empire discovered them, they would definitely surround and kill them. 100,000 soldiers and a large number of experts. There were also the kings of the four towns. Even the Lord of Five Poisons would not be able to deal with such a powerful force, unless he was at his peak in the past. At that time, there was no need to think. It was also a life and death struggle. At this moment, there was no time to think so much. It was still the same saying, there was always a way out. When the boat reached the bridge, it would cross the bridge. The deity diagram was floating in the golden core origin. Su Fong and Yu were releasing their true chi to activate the deity diagram. However, the deity diagram did not move. In order to decipher the secret of the deity diagram, they asked Yu for help. Yu stared at it for a while. After sensing it, he released his divine might. He also gained nothing. Master, Yu underestimated this deity diagram. The way it was condensed is not simple. This means that the former human emperor world lord must have been a very powerful immortal. The deity diagram condensed is something that Yu cannot decipher. Then what should we do? Let's find the place of inheritance of the human emperor world lord first. There might be something left behind by the human emperor world lord there, as well as the seal to decipher the deity diagram. All right, unexpectedly, the seal on the deity diagram was harder to break than expected. They stayed in the golden core origin and started to extract the essence absorbed from the countless fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. It was not only the essence of the human emperor's bright wheel, but also the power left behind by the human emperor world lord in the past. This was the only way to find the human emperor's inheritance. The origin became more and more shocking. It was extracted from Su Fong's body and surged into the formation in front of him. This is the aura. It has the divine might of Supreme Overlord. It must be the power left behind by the human emperor. At this moment, the Lord of Five Poisons and Li Ziqing were attracted by the origin. They naturally knew that this origin did not only come from the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel, but also from the former human emperor world lord. Countless cultivators who died, countless forces that were destroyed by the Xinyuan Empire and the Doichi Empire, were in fact all for the sake of obtaining this origin. Buzz, buzz. After waiting for a while, countless origin was like a big pearl floating in the air, and there seemed to be countless fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel inside. It was a pity that this origin was a magic treasure. It was definitely more powerful than the magic treasures left behind by the great ape demon and seven-star child. It was a pity that it could not be repaired. Su Fong could not wait. Seniors, it's done. This is the fragment essence that I absorbed from the immortal cauldron. Finish. The two big shots released their divine might and magic power and poured it into the origin. Heaven and earth sensing technique. Even with the origin, it was not easy to find the land of inheritance of the human emperor world lord in the vast human emperor world. Fortunately, Su Fong and the two big shots, especially the Lord of Five Poisons, were still somewhat confident in finding the land of inheritance. Time passed by minute, second by second. Only Sister Yu seemed to be fine at the side. In fact, she was responsible for sensing the movements outside. She could not be taken advantage of in such a place and at such a time. The heaven and earth sensing technique was used by the two big shots, causing the two big shots to sweat. It could be seen how difficult it was. Fortunately, the big shots had their own methods to recover their magic power. Su Fong did not need to worry. Half a month later, it seemed that the Lord of Five Poisons seemed to have aged a bit, and so did Li Ziqing. Su Fong's hands suddenly trembled. He looked at the origin that formed an ethereal image and instantly absorbed the divine light into his body. The heaven and earth sensing technique of the two big shots also disappeared. Su Fong frowned. We have found the general location. Seniors, we have to discuss it carefully. Maybe not long after we find the land of inheritance, the Xinyuan Empire will have problems. They will also find the land of inheritance at the same time. At that time, they will definitely surround us and kill us. The Lord of Five Poisons was very determined. There is only one way, and that is to kill our way out. That is the only way. We can't compromise with the Xinyuan Empire. If one of us becomes the realm lord, it will be of great help to our small world. We can't retreat in the face of difficulties. The more than 300 experts I brought with me are in the starry sky outside the human emperor world. They will jointly cast a formation and condense a shuttle door. When the time comes, we will activate the door. With our bodies as the center, we can instantly shuttle away from the human emperor world. There is still a certain degree of confidence that we can escape the encirclement. As long as we enter the Milky Way, we won't have to worry if they want to kill us. We will just exhaust ourselves in the Milky Way. Sect leader, you are already prepared. Li Ziqing chuckled. This also caused Su Fong, Anne's heart, to palpitate. With the 5 Venoms sect master and over 300 experts, as well as quite a few big shots, this force was hidden outside. If they suddenly made a move, even the Xinyuan Empire would suffer a loss. Good idea. No wonder the Lord of Five Poisons had those experts wait outside. It turned out that he had already thought of a way out. This way, they cannot be cut off by the Xinyuan Empire. Su Fong stood up. Then let's go now and find the land of inheritance. Okay, they all agreed. They were all confident that they could obtain the treasure. Su Fong activated the Xianwang 6 Paths Pagoda's earth elemental power. The innate law exploded, releasing a layer of gas that enveloped the 3 of them. They directly began to shuttle towards the underground rock layer. Ha! An innate law artifact. Li Ziqing was very surprised. The Lord of Five Poisons also saw it. It is indeed an innate law artifact. It is a peerless innate law artifact that is close to being a Tao artifact. It is incredible. You are the only one in this small world who can refine such an innate law artifact into an innate law artifact at the Yang Soul realm. I'm also lucky to have an innate law artifact. Under the protection of the innate law artifact, although the 4 of them were not fast, they still passed through the rock layer as if they were running. The Lord of Five Poisons confirmed again. Even an Ascension Realm expert would not be able to refine an innate law artifact of this quality into an innate law artifact. The 2 big shots could not help but praise Su Fong again and again. At this moment, Sister Yu felt as if she was in a dream. Her master and Li Ziqing were actually so polite to a Yang Soul Realm disciple. They talked and laughed as if they were old friends. Even a big shot like her, who had cultivated for more than 100,000 years, doubted everything she saw. Only now did she know how extraordinary Su Fong was. He was able to obtain the source of the fragment of human Emperor Ming Luan from the layers of seals of the Xinyuan Empire alone. Now, he also had an innate law artifact that was a peerless innate law artifact. Was this still something an ordinary cultivator could do? She finally knew why the Lord of Five Poisons would be so polite to a cultivator. For more than a year, the 4 of them continued to travel deeper into the earth. Su Fong could already clearly sense the source of the same aura as human Emperor Ming Luan coming from deeper underground. Another month of travel passed. Finally, a strong power of the world surged towards the 4 of them. After passing through the stone wall, they saw a man-made space in front of them. It was estimated to be tens of thousands of meters deep from the ground. It must be here. Li Ziqing showed a gratified smile. The Lord of Five Poisons nodded. There is no time to lose. We have to speed up. The 4 of them continued to fly forward. At this moment, they did not need the power of the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. In the center of the space was an ancient and quiet altar. The altar was rectangular. There was a staircase leading to a huge protruding spirit stone at the end. It seemed that the spirit stone was the passage to the place of inheritance of the human emperor. Master, the 3rd prince has just arrived at the human emperor world under the protection of countless experts. As soon as they arrived at the altar, Lu Yuan's thought came from the rune talisman. He's finally here. The 3rd Prince Su Fong felt like a sharp knife was hanging over his head. He told the 3 of them this news. Almost all of them had a murderous look on their faces. Chapter 544. Once the 3rd prince arrived, this meant that the Xinyuan Empire was about to take action. At this time, they would not notice anything. But once the third prince entered the immortal cauldron, he would definitely sense that the immortal diagram in the fragment of the emperor's will had disappeared. From entering the immortal cauldron to discovering the problem, and finally fusing to discover the location of the origin, there should still be a few years before the Xinyuan Empire arrived. This was the small chance that Su Fang had exchanged for by taking a risk. This space has been sealed for almost 200,000 years. When we were in the small world, the emperor had only fallen a few thousand years ago. He might have cultivated for 1,000,000 years, and this space has only been established for that long. It seems that there are no barriers around, but in the depths of this space, as well as the center, there are extremely powerful arrays, and most of them have already surpassed the height of the small world. The third prince and the leaders of the Xinyuan Empire are coming. The only thing we can do is not to fight them head-on, but to use the ready-made barriers left behind by the emperor to stop their advance. Kid, do you think this will work? It will take at least 1,000 years for you to fuse with the world's origin sealed by the emperor. Even if you are extremely talented, it will still take at least 100 years. We can't let them disturb you, so we can only use the space resources. The four of them were about to reach the Spirit Stone seal. Knowing that the third prince was coming, they all knew that they were about to face the Xinyuan Empire head-on. The Lord of Five Poisons explained his worries and thoughts clearly. Su Fang and Li Ziqing had no objections. They were all powerful characters. Su Fang's realm was not outstanding, but his abilities were shocking. Sister Yu seemed weak, but after cultivating for 100,000 years, she was also a Yu transformation realm powerhouse. She just hit her strength well. Li Ziqing's strength could also fight against any of the four great lords. Even if he was not their match, at least he would not be killed by them. The Lord of Five Poisons' strength was definitely at the same level as the four great lords. When the four of them combined their strength, they had already reached the peak level of the small world. Even if the Xinyuan Empire surrounded them, it would not be easy to deal with them. The most important thing is that you have to activate this space and enter the deeper space. Li Ziqing also had an idea. Time is tight. We can help you fuse with a part of the human sovereign's power first, and then help you fuse with all the enchantments in this space. Only by controlling the enchantments can we control everything here. All right, now let's see if there's anything special about the Spirit Stones. They quickened their pace, breathing heavily. Finally, they arrived at the end of the altar where the round Spirit Stone was located. Although this place looked like an altar, it should still be a part of the altar. The altar was carved and created from the enormous spirit veins of the mortal Emperor World. It was as if the spirit vein wasn't inlaid here by the mortal Emperor World Lord. Instead, it was born here. The mortal Emperor World Lord had only built an altar on it, creating this space that was filled with the mortal Emperor World's origin spirit chi. Step by step, the four of them approached the Spirit Stone. From afar, the Spirit Stone only appeared to be around 10 feet in size, but now it was over 100 feet in size. It was oval-shaped and perfectly blended in with the surrounding rock layer, as if it had been born here a long time ago and had perfectly blended in with the earth. The strange thing was that there was no formation to seal the Spirit Stone. After examining it carefully, Li Ziqing was very surprised. Without the protection of a formation or a seal, could it be that we can awaken the Spirit Stone by directly releasing the origin energy absorbed from the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel? They would know after trying. Su Fang extracted the essence from the fragment of the human emperor's bright wheel and clapped his hands. The light of the origin energy covered the surface of the Spirit Stone. Everyone was filled with anticipation, waiting for the Spirit Stone to be activated. However, after waiting for half an incense stick's time, the Spirit Stone didn't react with the power of the origin energy. It also didn't reject it. The Spirit Stone just stood there motionless. This was inexplicable. Could it be that the human emperor's bright wheel wasn't the key to opening the inheritance? The four of them sorted out their thoughts and tried to find a solution. Master, you appeared in the divine aperture. There is indeed no formation in this space because the formation hasn't been awakened yet. The spirit stone is a door that needs a special method to open it. Master's method is wrong. Do you have a solution? Su Fong seemed to have an idea. There are many ways, but I'm not sure what kind of sealing method it is. It's okay. Let's wait a little longer. If it doesn't work, we'll try your method one by one. The divine image, Jade Annulus, wasn't absolutely sure either. This surprised him. It was a Tao artifact and an ordinary item like the Yu Ling Camel Immortal Cauldron. Even with its special ability, it still couldn't unlock the secret of the Spirit Stone. The Lord of Five Poisons suddenly said, "Back then, I entered a small world far away and witnessed a big shot opening the Immortal's world. At first, I was clueless like us. Later, I activated the token in front of the Immortal's world. Unexpectedly, the token was awakened and the formation of the Immortal's world was cracked." Token. Su Fong didn't understand. Leader, is the token you're talking about the fragment of the Human Emperor's Bright Wheel, or something else? It shouldn't be the fragment of the Human Emperor's Bright Wheel. Think about it. The origin energy you're releasing now comes from the fragment of the Human Emperor's Bright Wheel. Its aura can definitely awaken the Spirit Stone. The Spirit Stone didn't react, which means that the fragment of the Human Emperor's Bright Wheel isn't the key to opening the inheritance. It's the key, but we still need to crack the key from it. I think it's so troublesome because the Human Emperor's World Lord was worried that someone would come with the Human Emperor's Bright Wheel and open the treasury. Think about it. What else did you find in the fragment of the Human Emperor's Bright Wheel? Or did you get something? Or the primordial spirit of the Human Emperor's World Lord? Or something else? In front of Su Fong, who was confused, the Lord of Five Poisons appeared wise and calm. This was the advantage of a big shot and a leader. It was something that the younger generation couldn't compare to. Perhaps the younger generation would also think of this, but they wouldn't be like the leader who could make such an incisive analysis in such a short time. Token. The leader said so clearly, but Su Fong still frowned slightly. He fell into deep thought. However, he immediately hammered his fist. I got it. This is a mysterious thing. Immediately, under the curious gaze of the three, the true text celestial diagram appeared in his palm. It's a material from the great world. Li Ziqing could tell at a glance that the celestial diagram was extraordinary. It's indeed from the great world. Whether it's the seal or the aura, it's all from the great world. The leader also felt endless respect for the Human Emperor's World Lord. I don't know what it is, but I got two treasures from the fragment. One is the essence of the Human Emperor's Bright Wheel fragment, and the other is this thing. Try it. Activate the celestial diagram and see if the Spirit Stone has any reaction. Yes. The few of them looked nervous. After Su Fong formed a seal, he activated the true text celestial diagram, which floated in front of the Spirit Stone. Once the celestial diagram appeared, there was immediately some movement. The huge altar behind it, which didn't have any special features, actually emitted a spiritual light. With a series of popping sounds, the altar seemed to come alive. Stone pillars rose from it. The stone pillars were carved with people, and they were like guards guarding the space. After the stone pillars appeared, a lot of spiritual light surged out and gathered toward the Spirit Stone. The Spirit Stone also emitted a faint spiritual light, but it wasn't very shocking. The transformation continued. Sister Yu pointed at the altar in shock. Look, those stone pillars seem to be like something. It's the shape of the Human Emperor's Bright Wheel. The Lord of Five Poisons looked surprised. From here, he looked down at the altar and the stone pillars that formed the formation. When he took a closer look, he saw that it was the shape of a material object. It was the perfect Human Emperor's Bright Wheel. But the Spirit Stone doesn't seem to be moving anymore. Li Ziqing looked troubled. Su Fong immediately tried to press on the Spirit Stone. Indeed, the Spirit Stone didn't move at all. Indeed, even when he activated the celestial diagram, the Spirit Stone still didn't completely open. The divine image, Jade Annulus, suddenly transmitted its voice. Master, you saw something. It seems that the Spirit Stone needs a lot of power to be awakened. It should be a special hand seal. those stone pillars suddenly appeared a bit abrupt. Maybe those stone pillars have the seal method of the human emperor realm lord. Whoosh! He immediately flew toward the altar and circled it a few times. Chief, he is. Li Ziqing didn't understand. The Lord of 5 Poisons nodded. The stone pillars appeared abruptly. This kid is very smart. It seems that there's a way to open the spirit stone hidden in the stone pillars. Su Fong didn't seem to see anything substantial. He slowly floated above the stone pillars and stared at the stone pillars that formed the shape of the human emperor's bright wheel. He had been waiting like this. In his eyes, the human emperor's bright wheel was unfamiliar. This was because he had seen and interacted with incomplete fragments. Therefore, perhaps it was because of this, in addition to the countless array seals that kept appearing in the fragments, he carefully felt the hand seals hidden in the depths of the fragments. For a few days, Su Fong began to condense the hand seals that he obtained. At first glance, it was incomplete. This was because there were still fragments of the human emperor's bright will scattered in the small world. It's your turn now. This wasn't a problem for him. This was because he had the divine image, Jade Annulus. This Tao artifact could deduce the flaws of cultivation techniques. The hand seals that he obtained now were actually incomplete. It was just enough for the divine image, Jade Annulus, to deduce the perfect hand seals. The Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Ziqing, and even Sister Yu could see what he was doing. The aura of the Tao artifact spread out. It was indeed terrifying. The Lord of 5 Poisons clicked his tongue and shook his head. Opportunities, wisdom, and treasures. This kid is amazing. The divine image, Jade Annulus, will undoubtedly be an unexpected surprise for opening the inheritance this time. Li Ziqing suddenly focused. Secmaster, you also know that I was trapped in the Xinjia Gate for thousands of years. I was just waiting for death there, but I didn't expect to meet Su Fong and be able to come back alive. I reckon that if this kid continues to develop like this, the Xinjia Gate will be his sooner or later. The Zhuotian realm's origin energy in his body is also very abundant. Maybe this kid doesn't just want to obtain the human emperor's world, but also the Zhuotian realm. Human emperor's Zhuotian realm. Sister Yu's eyebrows were already trembling. Supreme Majesty burst out from the peerless giant. The Lord of 5 Poisons laughed, as if he had thrown everything out of the 9 heavens. He realized what Li Ziqing's intentional words would bring to the future. Buzz. Su Fong, who was floating motionlessly, suddenly clasped his hands together, and a large number of graceful Xian Guang Dao artifact appeared. Got it. Thank you, Su Fong turned around and flew towards the spiritual stone. The 3 of them knew that Su Fong had found something. Looking at his confident smile, he was already confident that he could touch the spiritual stone. I used the power of the divine image, Jade Annulus, to deduce the handprints hidden in the depths of human Emperor Ming Luan. Then, I combined them with the handprints on the stone pillars on the altar. Finally, I have a complete set of restriction seals. Finished speaking, he led the 3 experts and arrived in front of the spiritual stone in an instant. Human Emperor's supreme technique. The technique that came from human Emperor Minglun and the human Emperor World Master's efforts to leave on the stone pillars on the altar was finally cracked by Su Fong, and it was displayed at this moment. Layers of Xian Guang Dao artifact flew out as handprints were displayed one after another. The handprints gave birth to a special power of Xian Guang. The time and speed of each handprint was different, and the aura of the Xian Guang Dao artifact was also different. Human Emperor's supreme technique. A set of complicated divine abilities. Instantly, it turned into a layer of Xian Guang Dao artifact and pounced on the spiritual stone. This time, the spiritual stone released a more intense luster, like a pulsating star. Tut-tut. The spiritual stone actually started to come alive, and it started to separate from the rock layer formed by the spiritual stones around it. However, it was very slow, and in the end, the spiritual stone stopped moving after coming out for less than a foot. Chapter 545. Li Zuching strode over and stared at the spirit stone. Why is it not moving at all? It's not a problem with the handprints. Su Fang was also confused and shocked. Don't worry, I think it's a spirit stone that needs power to move. The five poison religion master gestured with his finger and looked at the surrounding spiritual qi. In order to activate this spatial restriction and open the door to the inheritance, not only does it require a handprint, it also requires the world's origin of the human emperor world. With the world's power and the handprint, only then can the door open. I understand. A large amount of the essence of the human emperor world's origin from the spiritual camel immortal cauldron fused with the handprint and covered the spirit stone instantly. In fact, he was too anxious. This was the inheritance left behind by the human emperor world lord. How could the handprint alone open the treasury? How could a cultivator without the origin of the human emperor world be qualified to open the inheritance? All this proved that the human emperor world lord had put in a lot of effort to set this up. Not anyone who obtained the human emperor's bright wheel could open the inheritance. Fortunately, the Xinyuan Empire was very generous and prepared a nutritious meal for him. Tens of thousands of years of preparation finally allowed him to enter the spiritual camel immortal cauldron first and steal the fruit of the third prince, who grew up with a golden spoon in his mouth. At this time, the fruit also showed its importance. The essence of the infinite world and the special yang qi combined and wrapped around the spirit stone. Under Su Fang's urging, the spirit stone moved and kept moving outside, and its speed was getting faster and faster. After moving for more than 5 feet, a shining spirit cave with the profound aura of the ancient origin of the world rushed towards the four of them. The Lord of Five Poisons clenched his fist. This is indeed the origin of the world. It's as if we've come to the Milky Way. This profound aura can only be released by the power of the world. Li Zuching arrived behind the spirit stone and looked around the spirit cave. So the rock layer behind the spirit stone is covered with barriers as well as all kinds of hand seals. If you want to forcefully attack this space, only an immortal would be able to do it. Other than that, other cultivators from the mortal world wouldn't be able to do it. We've only activated the passage to the inheritance. We haven't activated the formation of the entire inheritance space. Without further ado, the Lord of Five Poisons nodded, and the four of them immediately entered the spirit cave. Wait! The hierarch turned to look at the spirit stone. The experts of the Xinyuan Empire will find this place at any moment. This spirit stone has to be returned to its rightful place. It cannot leave the inheritance boundary like this. We can't let them come so easily. Let's stick to our plan and make use of the defenses left behind by the human emperor to stop the Xinyuan Empire. Nah, the two tycoons had to remain calm. Although they were anxious to obtain the inheritance, they did not forget to deal with the Xinyuan Empire. As a result, Su Fang also consumed energy and origin, so only he could control the spirit stones. The handprint from the Renhuang Supreme Technique merged with the power of the origin and slowly dragged the spirit stone back. The spirit stone was originally one with the boundary, so it was not difficult for it to return to its original position. Sister Yu looked at Su Fang and asked, "Don't we need to destroy the stone pillars on the spell altar? Since the third prince is here, he should be able to figure out that the stone formation is the way to open the inheritance." There might be. Moreover, the Xinyuan Empire and Doichi have been preparing for so many years. They might have already mastered the Renhuang Supreme Technique to activate the spirit stones. Instead of wasting our energy to destroy the stone formation, we might as well merge with the inheritance and control the boundary of the inheritance space first. This way, we can prevent the experts from controlling the spirit stones from the inside. Hierarch is right. Focusing on the origin is the key to solving the problem. Chi, at this moment, the spirit stones finally returned to their rightful places. They sealed the spiritual cave between the spell altar and the inheritance space's array formation again. Next, they had to race against time and merge with the origin first. Whoever could control the inheritance space had a 90% chance of obtaining the human emperor world. Whoosh, whoosh. The four of them turned and flew into the inheritance space. Apart from a majestic essence of the human emperor world, there was still more essence in the ancient desolation. Coming here was equivalent to coming to the Milky Way. Moreover, the inheritance space was actually a Milky Way. Unbelievable. How is this possible? Not to mention Li Zuching. Even the Lord of Five Poisons had never seen the true world's origin. As it turned out, the world's origin had the form of a Milky Way. It was filled with the profoundness of a Milky Way. The inheritance space seemed to have no end because it was filled with bright stars. This was the Milky Way. The stars in the sky were not real stars. They were just images formed by the essence of the human emperor world's origin. It was breathtaking. The four of them had forgotten their purpose of coming here and where this place was. They only had respect for the heavenly Tao and nature. Su Fong immediately flew to the center. That was because there was a colorful Milky Way space there. It should be the inheritance of the human emperor world's origin. It floated there like a colorful pearl. Su Fong was the first to arrive at the Milky Way space. The Lord of Five Poisons, Li Zuching, and Sister Yu followed closely behind. This is the world energy of the human emperor world's world overlord. It is the source of the human emperor world. Brat, activate your source energy. No matter how great your ability is, use it to absorb as much as you can. Our enemies will arrive at any moment. Don't forget that your goal is not to completely integrate the inheritance. Instead, you need to use the inheritance to control this inheritance space. Once you control it, we will be in a stalemate with the Xinyuan Empire. Only then can you buy time to perfectly integrate everything. The Lord of Five Poisons hurriedly instructed. Bang! Su Fong went all out. Along with the burning origin, he used the human emperor's supreme technique and flew into the world's origin in an instant. Fortunately, he used the human emperor's supreme technique. Otherwise, he would have been injured by the barrier around the world's origin. It was not an injury, but a shock that turned him into minced meat. The three of us activate our origin energy. The three of them also flew to the world's origin and formed a triangle. The Lord of Five Poisons released his astonishing origin energy first, followed by Li Zuching and Sister Yu. At this moment, in the center of the world's origin, before Su Fong could adapt to the world's origin, he saw Sister Yu releasing her origin energy. Her strength was actually close to Li Zuching's level. She was actually so powerful. She completely had the strength of an elder of a large faction. This is the world's origin. This is the star realm. Su Fong looked around. It was a black hole of star spirit light with some five-colored aura. What was especially different was that the world's origin was also a kind of spirit chi. Natural spirit chi was like mist, but the world's origin energy was different. It was like water vapor that was like a membrane. If one carefully sensed it, they were in a watery state. This was much more advanced than natural spirit chi. First, I have to absorb a portion of the world's origin energy. Then, I can control and integrate the inheritance base array. Unleashing divine might, he began to absorb the world's origin energy. Not long after, he absorbed the origin energy of the Lord of Five Poisons, Li Zuching, and Sister Yu into the space. The origin energy of the three experts burned around Su Fong, stimulating the potential in his body. They pushed the energy to melt the world's origin energy, causing his body to be like a sponge. For a whole month, his eyes turned into a starry luster. Although they were empty, they were full of vigor. Human Emperor's supreme technique. He used the divine ability of the Human Emperor's world lord again. He was prepared to use the world's origin energy to sense the barrier around him. Then he would grasp the barrier's Dharma seal step by step and control the entire space. My successor. Suddenly, a deep intent that seemed to be everywhere exploded from all directions when the Dharma seal, formed by the Human Emperor's supreme technique, spread out. It seemed to be rumbling, but in fact, only Su Fong could hear it. He felt dizzy. When the sound calmed down, he suddenly realized that a middle-aged man in a yellow robe was sitting cross-legged in his divine aperture. The yellow-robed man appeared in the divine aperture without a sound. It was too strange, but Su Fang instantly knew who he was. Human Emperor's world lord with his current cultivation. Not only had he reached the young nascent soul stage 9, but his young nascent soul had already surpassed the young nascent soul realm and was even in the catastrophe realm. In addition, he had the true demon blood plate. It was impossible for someone to enter the divine aperture without a sound, just like how the divine image, Jade, Annulus, secretly sent its intent into the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. There was only one explanation. The source of this intense aura was the same as some kind of energy in Su Fang's body. The world's origin energy of the human emperor's world. The yellow-robed human emperor world lord's intent said slowly, "I don't know who you are, where you came from, whether you are a mortal or an immortal, whether you are a man or a woman. Because when this intent was left here, it meant that I had already fallen in the vast great world. I can only talk to you from the past, but it doesn't matter." Su Fang listened and calmed down. While fusing with the world's origin energy, he also hoped to have a certain understanding of a human emperor's world lord. In a sense, seeing the intent of the human emperor's world lord was equivalent to receiving the human emperor's world's permission. Who you are is not important. What's important is that you were able to obtain the key to come here from the shattered human emperor's bright wheel. This also means that you have passed the test I left behind. The me you see now is just my past intent, not the real me. Because I have already turned into dust, and my final wish was to pass down the human emperor's world. The human emperor's world used to be a desolate ancient world. I used millions of years to conquer this small world and named it the human emperor. Perhaps you will recall this king's Taoist name, human emperor. I swore to become the strongest human emperor of the human race. Unfortunately, I still fell halfway. From this moment on, the small world I left behind, as well as the human emperor, will be passed down to you. I hope that what I have yet to accomplish will be realized in your hands. I can't become the human emperor, but my successor, which is you, must do your best and prove to the heavens that you are the true leader of the human race, because you are the human emperor. Let's talk about something more important. The truth is that I've only fused with part of the human emperor's world. I haven't fully fused it with my fleshly body. If I had, I wouldn't have perished so easily. It's not easy to fully fuse with a small world. That's why there are differences between world lords. Perhaps I shouldn't have been in such a rush to go to the greater world. If I had focused on fusing with the smaller world, I would still be alive. Sadly, that's as good as passing clouds. The fact that you're here shows that you have the human emperor's paragon incantation. It's a technique that I created by fusing some of my immortal class energy arts with my own insights. By mastering the human emperor's paragon incantation, you can absorb the power of the world. Perhaps you've already noticed that, so I won't go into detail. The truth is that I didn't need to give my legacy to anyone. Most world lords who go to the greater world don't expect to die. Because of that, when they die, the minor world they leave behind becomes masterless, and mortal cultivators can easily become world lords. But I made preparations beforehand for a treasure. I also died because of his treasure. You should be the immortal diagram hidden in the human emperor's wheel, right? I used materials from the immortal world and the human emperor's supreme art to refine a map imprinted on it. Not long after I went to the greater world, I happened to come across a cultivation record left behind by an ancient cultivator. In that record was a strange magical treasure called the Myriad Manifestations Dharma Treasure. Chapter 546. 10,000 Manifestations Heavenly Dharma was that treasure, the mysterious treasure that the Shenyuan Empire had painstakingly sought after. That elder's notes are not a secret in the great world. Many people have seen them, but no one believed them. The will of the human sovereign realm lord continued to be transmitted in the form of a monologue. He was talking to the present in the way of the past. But to me, the moment I saw the miraculous power of the 10,000 Mammoths Dharma treasure, I was deeply shaken. According to the records, the 10,000 Mammoths Dharma treasure has the ability to condense matter in the primordial chaos and turn it into reality. According to the old man, the 10,000 Mammoths Dharma treasure was created with his life's blood and sweat. The old man used the 10,000 Mammoths Dharma treasure to absorb the mysterious matter in the primordial chaos of the great world. In the end, he built a planet in the middle of the primordial chaos. So far, that planet is the only one recorded to have been created by an immortal. Whether it is a great world or a great world, they were all created by the ancient chaos. They were called the desolate worlds. Later, human cultivators were born, and after countless generations of development, a cultivation civilization was established in the desolate worlds. Can you feel what an incredible miracle I'm talking about? Miracle? It's not an exaggeration. My goal, my pursuit, is to become the king of the human race, the supreme king. To many people, the human emperor is a joke. They think that I can't achieve it. And the 10,000 manifestations heavenly dharma was the elder's lifelong goal. Many people may have laughed at him, ignored him, and trampled on his dream, but in the end, he did it. Many people have gotten their hands on the notes, but no one has ever studied the essence of the notes because they don't believe it at all. At that time, I felt that the 10,000 manifestations of Dharma was real. After studying and deciphering the true scriptures in the notes, I tried to use a set of skills left behind by the elder called the ethereal Tao of 10,000 arts to slowly communicate with a large world at that time. Who would have thought that it would actually succeed, causing the large world at that time to be in a state of stillness, causing its origin to break through the seal of the world, causing the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. The earthquake caused the star rivers around the large world to distort. It was as if some peerless treasure was about to appear and disturb the star rivers. In fact, it was me using the misty 10,000 laws Tao that caused the large world to shake. At that time, the world lord of that large world reacted and thought that I wanted to steal his large world. Therefore, he sent a large number of experts to surround and kill me. The world lord of that large world obviously wanted to know the method I used to awaken the origin of the world, so he sent many experts to find the answer. In the end, under the encirclement, I had no choice but to give the notes to the world lord. The realm lord didn't believe it at all. It was just an ancient handwritten record that could shake his great world. He still tried to kill me. In the end, my Tao body was shattered by those experts, and even my Tao treasure was destroyed. The will I left in the human sovereign world also began to disappear. However, the magical treasure that protected my will in the depths of the human sovereign world, the human sovereign bright wheel, was also shattered along with my death. The fragments rushed out of the human sovereign world and scattered everywhere. I used the last of my strength to leave the secret of the human sovereign world's inheritance in those fragments, waiting for the fated one to come here. The fated one, this is the story of the human sovereign, but it is not complete. It is the story of the last part of my life when I was cultivating in the large world. My incomplete path is the path you have to walk. I am a failure. Other than the human sovereign supreme art and the ethereal myriad arts Tao that I comprehended from the notes, I have nothing left for you. The human sovereign world is formed by the primal chaos, so it is a treasure left for you by nature. The most important thing is still the ethereal myriad arts Tao. This peerless divine ability can actually determine the origin of a large world that the world lord has fused with. If you cultivate it to the peak, you can use the ethereal myriad arts Tao to freely enter and exit the forbidden area of the world controlled by the world lord. What kind of ability is that? Especially if you can use the ethereal myriad arts Tao to find the myriad manifestations heavenly dharma created by the old man. This way, you can create a world in the large world and become the world lord. However, the notes didn't record where it is. Perhaps if you cultivate the ethereal myriad arts Tao to the peak, you will be able to find it. And that old senior is called the ethereal spiritual master. If you go to the large world, you can collect the notes about him. He is a legend. He doesn't exist, but everyone knows about him. After saying so much, the things that should be left for you are hidden in the center of the origin, which is where you are now. Soon, you will sense the existence of the space in the depths. My existence should also be erased from this world. I can't become a paragon, and I'm also not a powerful immortal. In this life of mine, the will of the world lord of the human emperor suddenly snorted inexplicably with this last sentence. In the blink of an eye, the entire body disappeared as suddenly as before. It was impossible to predict its disappearance. He didn't exist in the surroundings at all. Especially when the three great experts outside didn't notice his existence. It was as if to Su Fong, everything was just a dream. During this period of time, he was constantly walking on thin ice and was in danger. It was probably because of this that he was in a dispirited state and had a dream. No, how could the secret of that treasure be a dream? The world lord of the human emperor was real. The past that he spoke of was also real. The myriad manifestations, heavenly dharma, was also real. Senior human emperor died. How could the secret of the misty spiritual master be known by the Xinyuan Empire? Could it be that the world lord of the great world finally discovered the secret from the notes? In the future, I will get an answer from the Xinyuan Empire. The whole truth was planned by the immortals of the Xinyuan Empire in the great world. When senior human emperor was killed, perhaps the world lord didn't believe it, but the other immortals did. I will figure it out. The myriad manifestations, heavenly dharma, is a peerless magic treasure that can refine a planet from the void of the galaxy. Is there such a magic treasure? If there is, once I master the myriad manifestations, heavenly dharma, won't I be able to establish a world anywhere in the void of the chaotic galaxy and become the paragon of the world? The misty myriad manifestations Tao. I must study it carefully in the future. He cleared his thoughts. In addition, he absorbed the power of the surrounding world, used the human emperor's supreme technique, fused with the young infant, and combined with the demonic disintegration seal. Suddenly, countless young infant wills were separated. Under the activation of the human emperor's supreme technique, countless wills formed the same reaction. Soon, countless barriers appeared in the seemingly empty galaxy. These were the arrays of the inheritance space. Kid, good job. We will do our best to help you. You just need to focus on fusing with the barriers of the inheritance space. No matter how strong the Xinyuan Empire is, they won't be able to break the barriers in a short time. The three of them were very happy when they heard the good news. The magic power of the three experts once again flowed into Su Fong's body, helping him control the countless young infant wills. They began to fuse and memorize the seals of the layers of the array. At this moment, Su Fong was in shock. The strength of the human emperor's world lord was far greater than the great ape demon of the Zhuotian realm. The tomb of the great ape demon could only be described with one word: shocking. And the inheritance space of the human emperor's world lord had too many great ape demons. The demonic disintegration seal separated countless young infant wills, combined with the human emperor's supreme technique, allowed Su Fong to see the entire inheritance space. It was at least 100 miles wide. The inheritance space was built on top of countless spirit veins in this 100-mile underground world. The inheritance space was surrounded by spirit veins. There were tens of thousands of them. Furthermore, the array of the human emperor's world lord was deeply fused with these spirit veins. Moreover, there was also an even stronger source of the human emperor's world that came from the depths of the human emperor's world. It was likely that there was another place, and it was also where the true source of the Renhuang realm was located. It's really not easy to fuse these arrays. If I can't separate countless young infant wills, it will take at least 1,000 years to fuse them. It was too difficult. He didn't think that fusing with the inheritance space would be so difficult. Master, not good. The Xinyuan Empire suddenly shook. The third prince found something in the immortal cauldron. Thunder was furious. The four marquises and other experts are working together to sense the location of the human emperor's world lord. Unexpectedly, Lu Yuan's thoughts were also transmitted over at this moment. In the end, it was discovered. The The third prince has only been in the human emperor's world for a little more than a year. They will be able to sense this place in at most a year. Master, you have to be careful. The Xinyuan Empire is serious. Take care of yourself too. Don't let anyone discover anything wrong. Buzz. The runes in his body calmed down. It was a race against time. I have to forcefully fuse with most of the arrays in the inheritance space before the Xinyuan Empire comes. I have to at least fuse with more than half of them. More than half, or even 1/10, is impossible. And this is with the help of the sect leader, Li Zuqing, and Sister Yu. Without their help, I won't even be able to fuse with 1/100th of the arrays. Method right now. The situation was dire. The Xinyuan Empire would be able to kill their way here in at least 2 years, or most 1 year. This was a death order for him. He had to fuse with more than half of the arrays in the inheritance space within a year. I can only use the Tianji life shrinking technique and force my thoughts to fuse with all the arrays. There was only one way. That was to use the Tianji life shrinking technique. The Tianji life shrinking technique's power was unimaginable. Not only could it conceal the aura of the primordial spirit and cut off any senses, it could also erase the fused consciousness of the artifacts and other consciousnesses. There were many arrays in the inheritance space that actually listened to the orders of the human emperor and the world lord. But now, Su Fong wanted to force them to listen to him. Seniors, the scouts just sent news that the Xinyuan Empire has found traces of my actions in the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. They will probably sense this place in about a year. Therefore, I have to increase my strength to the limit and use a forbidden technique to forcefully fuse with the space here. He transmitted his thoughts to the 2 leaders. Then, he formed a seal. Natal power. All the commanders, listen up. Release your strength and strengthen my body. He was going all out. He had never used his full strength to fuse with the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda as his natal artifact. But now, he was to use his full strength to activate the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda for the first time. He ordered the 93 commanders. Zhu Huang, the great commander, also heard the order. He received Su Fong's thoughts and knew what Su Fong was thinking. In an instant, he ordered the 93 commanders to release their strength at the same time. Soldiers were trained for 1,000 days to be used in a single moment. The trump cards of the commanders and the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda were finally used at this crucial moment, although he had the help of the 2 leaders and Sister Yu. But in the end, Su Fong had to rely on himself. He was the key to everything. Buzz, buzz. About 2 hours later, his natal power burst out. Waves of gold and silver aura seeped out from Su Fong's skin and hair. There was also a certain amount of demonic aura. Once this aura was released, coupled with the power of the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. At this moment, Su Fong's aura had actually surpassed the Yang Nascent Realm and the Catastrophe Realm, reaching the Yu Transformation Realm. Chapter 547. Yang Nascent Soul Realm Catastrophe Realm Feather Transformation Realm. The instant he released the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda, Su Fong's aura immediately went from the Yang Nascent Soul Realm to the Catastrophe Realm, stepping into the ancient height of the Feather Transformation Realm. The expressions of the 3 experts on the outside changed. They were deeply shocked by the strength Su Fong displayed. Originally, Su Fong, who was considered a genius in their eyes, was at most in the Catastrophe Realm. But now, his strength had already entered the Feather Transformation Realm. Sister Yu looked at the Lord of 5 Poisons in a daze. It seemed that only now did she realize how extraordinary Su Fong was. His life source magic treasure is truly terrifying. Even my life source magic treasure cannot reach the level of his magic treasure. As long as he steps into the Catastrophe Realm, without using his life source magic treasure, his strength might be close to the Feather Transformation Realm. Right now, he is only at the 9th stage of the Yang Nascent Soul Realm. This is a true, peerless genius. Don't think that just because you are in the Feather Transformation Realm, you are standing at the peak of the small world. For someone like Su Fong, even if he is not in the Feather Transformation Realm, he could still reach the peak of the small world. This disciple will work even harder and strive to become an immortal as soon as possible. Under the earnest and heartfelt advice of a Lord of 5 poisons, Sister Yu truly understood what kind of person Su Fong was. She finally acknowledged this foreign cultivator in front of her. Chi within the world's power. The gold and silver light turned Su Fong's body into gold and silver. The Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda had fused with every inch of his flesh and blood. It was a peerless magic treasure that was close to a Tao artifact. In addition, his body had reached the perfection realm. Su Fong was still constantly urging him. His aura became more and more powerful. It was clearly comparable to the 3 experts on the outside. There was also a clear difference between him and the 3 experts. Su Fong's aura was mostly from his magic treasure. His own true qi only took up a 5th of it. On the other hand, the experts were all true qi and did not have any magic treasures. This was the difference brought about by cultivation. 93 junior commanders? That's not enough. Far from enough. In the future, I'll definitely gather 100,000 junior commanders in the minor worlds. At that time, even if I'm not a world overlord, I'll still be able to deal with immortals from the lower realms. Xianhuang's 6 Paths Pagoda was not the only one who had caused him to enter such a frenzied and powerful state. There were also the junior commanders and the senior commander, Zhu Huang. Junior commander each level of the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda could absorb 100,000 junior commanders. Currently, there are only 93 of them. If we have 100,000 junior commanders, that strong. My current strength is not comparable to Sister Yu's, nor can I catch up to Li Ziqing. However, I am at least stronger than the Calamity Realm. With my current strength, I can use the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. Even if this is a space created by a human emperor world lord, it should still submit to me. The light in his eyes suddenly froze. His king's aura suddenly erupted, sweeping away the surrounding world energy. Heavenly secret life, shrinking technique. Fate is the creation of the heavens. If I want something, the heavens cannot do without it. Qi. Finally, with Su Fong's strongest state combined with the power of the 3 experts outside, Su Fong used the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. It was a forbidden technique that came from a mysterious woman in the Origin Sacred Realm space. Qi, a silver-gray light spread out from the center of the world energy in all directions of the inheritance space. Li Ziqing stared at the light and looked at the inheritance space. What a terrifying aura. What kind of cultivation technique is this? Even my young nascent soul's power is suppressed by this light and can't spread out. What kind of power is this? The 5 Venoms sect master, who was extremely knowledgeable, felt as though his godly might have been frozen all of a sudden. Under the glow that had appeared, he was unable to budge at all. He found that the space above him was completely covered by the power of heaven and earth. It was even stronger. It was even stronger than the power of a human emperor world lord's inheritance. Li Ziqing was surprised. I don't know why, but his power doesn't have absolute killing and destruction. Instead, it has a power that can make wills and power submit to it. Now I understand why you and him could escape from the Xinjia Gate. This kid has too many secrets. Brotherly, I'm afraid there will be a good show to watch in the future. A mysterious smile appeared on the Lord of 5 Poisons' face. A good show. Su Fong has so much potential and endless means. He already has such power now. Once he steps into the Tribulation Realm and the Ascension Realm, he will definitely surpass us ancient antiques. Then what will happen to the Xinyuan Empire at that time? Most probably, it's very tragic. I understand now. If they want to make an enemy out of someone like Su Fong, they are simply courting death. Even if there's a supreme world overlord in the Divine Origin Empire, if Su Fong continues to grow, even world overlords would be killed by him. The Xinyuan Empire will regret it in the future. The 2 giants looked at the pressure in the void and couldn't breathe for a long time. Buzz. Su Fong, who was in the depths of the world energy, used his perfect circle ability. At this moment, he could see countless layers of formations barriers, and restrictions. He could even see the handprints on them clearly. Moreover, his countless young infants' consciousness had already followed the power of the heaven's secret life shrinking technique and instantly subdued all the barriers. Countless consciousness poured into the sea of formations. The power of the heaven's secret life shrinking technique was still showing. According to Su Fang's will, not only did it make the formations submit, but it also made the young infant's consciousness control all the restrictions. Su Fang's original body absorbed countless restrictions. His hands were constantly forming seals. In order to seize the time, he also activated the divine image jade wall, fused his consciousness, and projected it into the countless formations. He memorized the handprints left by the human sovereign world lord in the depths of the space. With the divine image jade wall, it was really twice the result with half the effort. At this moment, his will had already fused with the countless formations. The divine image jade wall was constantly evolving the handprints into sets of restrictions and transmitted them into Su Fang's mind. Su Fang kept memorizing and mastering the various formations and restrictions in the inherent space. He also activated the 9-yang genuine qi and continued to absorb the power of the world as quickly as possible. Then, he absorbed the cold yin qi from the immemorial saint plane. The melting power formed by the fusion of yin and yang melted the power of the Renhuang world that entered his body into every corner of his body. Qi. A few months later, a tribulation aura suddenly appeared in Su Fang's aura. I'm about to break through. It really came at the right time. I absorbed a large amount of world energy and received the support of the young commander's magic power. It's equivalent to cleansing my body. I should break through from a young infant 9th stage to the 10th stage perfection. Come on. At this critical moment, fortunately, he controlled most of the barriers. If he broke through to the young infant 10th stage and became stronger, wouldn't it be easier to control the inheritance? He immediately sealed the power of his life source. The Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda quietly floated in his body again. Breaking through to the young infant 10th stage came just like that. When the 3 people outside learned that Su Fang was about to break through, they were both surprised and happy. They also took the opportunity to rest. They began to devour all kinds of resources. The 3 of them also absorbed the natural source of the human sovereign world. The natural source was the purest spirit of heaven and earth. It could directly increase one's strength. Without the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda and the power of the heaven's secret life, shrinking technique disappeared. Su Fang suddenly felt very tired. He didn't have any strength left. Only then did he realize. He had been continuously using the heaven's secret life shrinking technique for half a year. He didn't know how much lifespan he had consumed. When Aunt Yu caught a glimpse of him, she was startled. It turned out that Su Fang's appearance had unknowingly returned to his original appearance. His hair was black, but there was also a lot of white. He was at least 40 years old. Kid, so the divine ability you used just now was at the cost of burning your life force. No wonder it could explode with a power that was dozens of times stronger than your cultivation. This method of burning one's life force is similar to burning one's golden core. They both consume one's natural source. Normally, cultivators would only use this method when they are in a desperate situation, especially the evil path. They are good at using forbidden techniques to burn one's life force to cultivate evil techniques. You have to be careful. Don't be too eager for quick success and end up devouring your own mind. The Lord of 5 Poisons said in a reprimanding tone, "Thank you, Senior, but I don't have the time and I can't afford to wait." A young soul realm cultivator has a lifespan of more than 1,000 years. 1,000 years? Why would I need such a long lifespan? I might as well use it to become strong. I will take this opportunity to break through to the 10th stage of the Yang Soul Realm. Everyone, rest well. After Su Fang spoke, disdain exploded in his eyes and aura. Whether it was the Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Ziqing, or Sister Yu, they all saw how determined Su Fang was. He was determined to obtain the human sovereign's inheritance. Since that was the case, the two big shots and Sister Yu began to rest. They didn't say anything else. Su Fong consumed a large amount of resources and used the 100 acupoints finger art. His body began to break through again and again. His 6 yang meridians, purple aura dharma spirit, dragon taming wood, and golden core origin were also breaking through. Boom! In a few days, a fierce tribulation aura rushed out of his body along with his astral energy. His astral energy was divided into 10 levels. He had reached perfection, surpassing the 9th stage of the Yang Soul Realm, the 10th stage of the Yang Soul Realm, the final stage of the Yang Soul Realm. At the moment of breaking through, the Yang Soul first changed. Naturally, the Yang Soul also turned into countless illusory Yang Souls under the influence of the heavenly demon disintegration seal. They separated and merged in the divine aperture. Soon, they merged and turned into a Yang Soul. Upon closer inspection, the armor of the Yang Soul became clearer. There were some demonic patterns and spiritual patterns intertwined with demonic chi on it. Not only did the Yang Soul change, but the divine aperture also became stronger and its space doubled. Because he didn't have a golden core, the divine patterns formed by the divine abilities he cultivated as a void cultivator appeared in the divine aperture's barrier. The divine patterns contain the aura of the 7 great divine abilities of the celestial sealing sect, the illusory fire cloud, the heaven-worshipping palm art, the green lotus sword art, the heavenly demon book, the human emperor supreme technique, and the 9 suns, 9 changes. Under normal circumstances, the divine patterns would appear in the golden core's barrier and become the golden core's defense. However, he was a void cultivator. In the end, the divine patterns appeared in the divine aperture and merged with the divine aperture, becoming the divine aperture's barrier. Maybe it was God's will. At this moment, maybe because his cultivation had increased again and he was close to the catastrophe realm, the divine patterns in the divine aperture suddenly transformed. Most of the divine power and the divine aperture's barrier almost merged. Because of this miraculous and sudden change, Su Fong only needed to move his mind, and the divine patterns would automatically cooperate with the magic power in the divine aperture to release the divine abilities corresponding to the divine patterns. For example, he could still use the heavenly demon disintegration seal. The large amount of demonic patterns formed by the heavenly demon book didn't wait for Su Fong to form a seal. Under the absorption of the divine aperture's magic power, the Yang Soul started to separate into countless illusory Yang Souls. In order to figure out what was going on, he immediately asked Li Ziqing in secret. However, Li Ziqing couldn't be sure. He was only sure of one thing, which was that it had something to do with being a void cultivator. Because he didn't have a golden core, the divine patterns that belonged to the golden core were slowly formed in his divine aperture when he formed it. Li Ziqing was very clear about the benefits. The divine aperture was formed. Magic power was born. The divine aperture was an ocean of magic power. The divine patterns were the essence of the various divine abilities that Su Fong cultivated. When the divine patterns perfectly merged with the divine aperture and fused with the magic power, he could easily release the divine abilities corresponding to the divine patterns without the need for the main body to form a seal. And this uniqueness was something that only Su Fong possessed, because the way and process of losing the golden core was different for everyone. The disappearance of the divine patterns and the formation of the divine patterns were also different. It wasn't certain that the divine patterns of other void cultivators would disappear along with the golden core and appear in the divine aperture. It wasn't inevitable. It was a coincidence. Chapter 548. At this moment, he didn't care if it was a coincidence or inevitable. When the Yang Soul's transformation ended, his physical body also welcomed the shocking advancement force. His physical body rumbled. Under the impact, a large amount of impurities overflowed, and the stench was shocking. This was the moment when he needed energy. Su Fong once again poured the blood water he obtained from the great ape demon's tomb into his body. His broken body immediately recovered. His black lotus true body crazily absorbed the blood energy, and the blood vessels grew as if they were reborn. His physical body had reached perfection, and his overall body was constantly improving. I'll take the opportunity to continue fusing the hand seals and control the inheritance space. At this moment, his physical body had just begun to recover, and the advancement force had not ended. He multitasked and continued to condense the hand seals from the divine image jade wall. Okay. Outside the power of the world, the Five Venoms sect master was in the midst of recovering. Suddenly, a black light expanded in his eyes. Li Ziqing felt that something was wrong. Sect master, what's the matter? It should be the sensing power of the Xinyuan Empire's powerhouses. It's projected from the ground to sense the location of the inheritance space. What will come will come. So what if it comes? The Lord of Five Poisons immediately told Su Fong. Su Fong's heart skipped a beat, and he secretly contacted Lu Yuan. After a while, Lu Yuan responded. The Xinyuan Empire had just left the underground palace, and some powerhouses were protecting the third prince to find the inheritance space first. Su Fong released 2 balls of Xianguang. Senior, I've already fused 1/3 of the hand seals. I'll be able to fuse the other half soon. These are the hand seals of the outer formation. Next, I'll have to rely on the 2 of you to fight against the Xinyuan Empire and buy time for me. Don't worry about it. With us here, the Xinyuan Empire won't be able to kill their way in. The 2 powerhouses replied casually. They grabbed the Xianguang and Sister Yu and flew to the entrance of the space. Now, Su Fong was alone and continued to fuse with the power of the world. I don't lack energy to advance to the 10th stage of the Yang Soul realm. This place is full of the power of the world. My meridians and body have transformed, and I've returned to my 30s. I probably won't be able to return to my 20s anytime soon. I've also fused with the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda. The power of promotion ended. After checking the changes in his physical body, Su Fong felt great. The 10th stage of the Yang Soul made his Yang Soul seem indestructible, and his physical body was much stronger. He settled down for a while. Once again, he activated the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda and used its innate power. His aura once again surpassed the Yang Infant Realm, Catastrophe Realm, and stepped into the Feather Transformation Realm. Su Fong's strength was still at the peak of the Catastrophe Realm. He had the strength of a Feather Transformation Realm cultivator. This was the power of a natal magic treasure. It allowed Su Fong to surpass the entire Catastrophe Realm, going from the Yang Infant Realm to the Feather Realm. This kind of strength had already reached the level of an elder. In other words, his current strength was about the same as Jin Shankong and Yuan Tianzong from the Celestial Sealing Sect. Using his innate power, he once again used the Heavenly Demon Disintegration Seal, causing his Yang Infant to transform into countless Yang Infant Wills. They began to enter the layers of formations in the inheritance space and fuse with the inheritance restrictions. As for Su Fong's true body, it was responsible for absorbing the power of the world. Fusing with the inheritance space was only to deal with the Xinyuan Empire. He wanted to use the space left by the human sovereign realm lord to resist the attack of the Xinyuan Empire. His goal and focus was to fuse with the power of the world and become the human sovereign realm lord. Activating the 9 Yang 9 changes, the Yang energy in his body circulated. His perfect physical body absorbed the power of the world. A deep aura immediately surged throughout his body. He seemed to be the embodiment of the starry sky. In particular, the perfect fusion of the power of the world and the Yang energy. This way, the power of the world of the human sovereign realm would completely fuse with his Yang meridian, bloodline, bones, and vital qi. When the fusion of the perfect physical body and the Black Lotus true body was pushed to the extreme, Su Fong's physical body directly appeared to be in a broken state. This allowed his physical body to directly absorb the power of the world instead of absorbing it through his mouth and nose like before. This way, the speed of absorbing the power of the world was not increased by a few times, but by a few hundred times. Even so, his strength of fusing with the world was increased by 100 times. In the face of the vast human sovereign realm, he was still insignificant. He was a young infant realm 10th-stage cultivator, and he was unable to control such a world. Ordinary people would need thousands or tens of thousands of years to fuse with the human sovereign realm. He would need at least 100 years. At this time, he couldn't think so much. The two big shots and Sister You were at the entrance of the inherent space. They were fusing the array according to the hand seals. After fusing, they could control the array to deal with the Xinyuan Empire. Buzz, perhaps because of the increase in speed, after fusing for a while, a beam of light suddenly appeared in the surging power of the world. This beam of light was clearly a seal. Could this be what the human sovereign realm Lord left for me? After thinking for a while, he felt the aura of the human sovereign's supreme technique from the beam of light. Thus, he boldly fused with it. As expected, it's the power left behind by the human sovereign realm Lord. It's actually the source of the human sovereign realm, as well as the source of the Yuan stones. There's also a detailed map of a large number of dangerous places. Many true characters appeared in his mind and turned into many maps. In the end, it formed a perfect map of the human sovereign realm. It didn't record the cities, but the locations of the source of the human sovereign realm. Ethereal true record. At this time, he couldn't use the map. After becoming a realm lord, he could use a great ability to sense. However, with the map, it would be convenient for him to cultivate in the human sovereign realm. At the end of the seal was a true character with immortal chi. The true character was the ethereal true record created by the mysterious ethereal spiritual master, according to the human sovereign realm lord. He began to absorb one true character after another. In fact, each true character was a power that contained the powerful energy of the human sovereign realm lord. Therefore, fusing with the true characters was the same as fusing with the power left behind by the human sovereign realm lord. During this process, his body that had just broken through to the 10th stage of the Yang Soul realm was immediately filled with magic power and powerful true chi. The replenishment of true chi and magic power directly increased Su Feng's strength. According to the human sovereign realm lord's words, he used the ethereal true record to sense a world in the outside world. In the end, he attracted a fatal disaster. If that's true, then I'm anxiously thinking of a way to fuse with the human sovereign source in a short time. Wouldn't that mean that I can cultivate the ethereal true record and use this peerless ability to help me fuse with the human sovereign realm? It should be possible. The human sovereign realm lord can use it. It can invisibly shake the source of a world in the outside world. It should also be possible in a small world. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. He had a way to quickly fuse with the human sovereign realm. He let his physical body absorb the world's energy naturally, while his Yang soul continued to use the demonic disintegration seal to fuse with the countless formations in the inherent space. Su Feng began to fuse the true characters of the ethereal true record one by one and arrange them. Soon, they formed a true character flickering with immortal chi. It was the cultivation technique of the ethereal true record. Fortunately, the human sovereign realm lord didn't use immortal characters to write true characters. Otherwise, even if the divine image Jade Annulus could help Su Feng decipher it, it would be very difficult for Su Feng to control the immortal characters. Su Feng pondered for a moment, then began to cultivate the ethereal true record. He didn't try to comprehend it. Instead, he wanted to cultivate the ethereal true record to help him fuse with the human sovereign realm as soon as possible. However, he still tried his best to comprehend its essence. After cultivating, changes began to take place. The world's energy fused with his true chi. Then, Su Feng formed hand seals according to the ethereal true record and released all of the world's energy and true chi outside his body. He let his true chi and the fused world's energy disperse into the world's energy space. His true chi and world's energy had already fused with the ethereal true record's hand seals and might. Wonderful, truly wonderful. According to this method of circulating my chi and making hand seals, the world's energy and true chi in my body will first be filled with might. Then they will all leave my body and release all of the energy. When my physical body is completely devoid of energy, my true chi and world's energy will completely permeate the surrounding world's energy. Then, through the ethereal true record, my true chi and world's energy will fuse with the surrounding world's energy. Everything around me will become my divine image. Su Fong followed the hand seals and released all of the energy in his body into the surrounding world's energy space. Then, according to the ethereal true record's hand seals, he formed countless hand seals and divine might to fuse with the surrounding world's energy space. Finally, he activated his divine image to transform the surrounding space into his divine image. Void. Reality. Void and reality are the quintessence of the ethereal true record. The hand seals I'm using right now are allowing my true chi to leave my body and transform it into a void state. Then, through my mental cultivation method and hand seals, I'll allow my void true chi to fuse with the external energy and transform it into a physical form. The ethereal true record is truly profound. This sort of void and reality Taoist technique is something I've comprehended from the surface of my mental cultivation method. Furthermore, the ethereal true record contains many characters of truth. Void and reality evolution. This was the profundity of the ethereal true record formed from the surface of truth. In reality, it allowed oneself to transform from a physical form into nothingness. Then, the power of the nothingness would fuse with nature and absorb the power of nature. This wasn't difficult. Void in reality evolution was merely a matter of controlling one's power. As for the creator of the ethereal true record, the ethereal true record, the ethereal true record, the void in reality evolution created by the ethereal true record's creator was not so shallow. It was merely a simple cultivation technique. The ethereal true record's void and reality evolution was truly an evolution from nothingness to reality, and from reality to nothingness. It was equivalent to using the ethereal true record to create a physical object out of nothing in the starry sky. This was the true void and reality evolution. It was truly unbelievable. However, Su Fong didn't need to reach such a height. He only needed the ethereal true record's cultivation technique to transform his true chi from a physical form into nothingness. Then, by fusing with nature's nothingness, he would be able to transform nature into his own domain. The divine image was a domain. Rumor had it that the peak of the divine image was a world. When all of his true chi entered the world energy space, Su Fong felt his body become empty. However, when he used the ethereal true record, the world energy around him became his own. Divine image absorbed. After a period of void and reality evolution, the true chi that had entered the world energy space seemed to be a peaceful world energy. It was the essence of the mortal emperor world. Suddenly, it transformed into a terrifying world energy filled with yang energy. The world energy space suddenly distorted and was directly absorbed into Su Fong's eyes. After the distortion disappeared, the world energy around him seemed to have decreased by half. That was because Su Fong had absorbed nearly a third of the world energy's essence through the ethereal true record. Terrifying, too terrifying. The world energy in my body has increased by 10,000 times. It's filled to the brim with world energy. When the divine image entered his body, all of the world energy condensed from void and reality evolution instantly returned to his body, perfectly fusing with it. At this moment, the world energy in his body had increased by more than 10,000 times. If this continues, I won't even need 10 years to fuse all of the world energy. Su Fong was incomparably excited. This was all thanks to the ethereal true record. Kid, you have a speed up. The Xinyuan Empire seems to have locked onto this place. The will of the Lord of Five Poisons also arrived. Chapter 549. It's here. The Lord of Five Poisons was extremely powerful. What Su Fong couldn't sense, he could. With a sharp knife in his heart, he could only use the ethereal enlightenment to absorb and fuse the power of the world again and again. On the surface of the ground, deep in the ground, on the desolate ground, due to the loss of the enchantment, the power of the Milky Way was constantly suppressing the spiritual chi of the human sovereign world. On the surface, the human sovereign world looked desolate, but in reality, it was still full of spiritual chi. Whoosh! A layer of Xianguang's power suddenly locked on from all directions. It suddenly descended on the ground. After a while, whoosh, 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 whoosh. Over 20 experts flew over from the sky. Most of them were experts from the Xinyuan Empire. A few of them were Doichi's disciples. What disciples? Every one of these people had the strength of an elder. They were all feather transformation realm experts. It seems to be here. Everyone came to the top of the ground and looked down at the desolate and barren ground. They didn't think that the inheritance left behind by the human sovereign world's master was below. Welcome, Third Lord. Many more experts flew over. The leader was a young man in a golden robe. His golden robe was embroidered with a five-colored golden dragon. The dragon was vivid and lifelike, as if this golden-robed man was its master. He was the future successor of the Xinyuan Empire. Currently, he was the most talented and powerful expert in this small world. He was an existence that everyone in the 8 worlds knew about. Xinyuan Empire, Third Prince. The aura released by the Third Prince was connected to the aura of the experts. He flew to the sky and looked down. He said in a dignified voice, "Combine with the source of the human sovereign world that I have fused with and confirm the location." It's the Crown Prince. Everyone bowed. Over 20 experts released their divine aura and their magic power. They also absorbed the aura from the Third Prince. Instantly, the divine aura of the experts and the Third Prince's aura descended and penetrated the ground bit by bit. About half an hour later, how is it? Another large number of experts flew over. This time, it wasn't a few dozen people, but tens of thousands. At the front was the 4 lords of the Xinyuan Empire. There were thousands of experts behind the liege lord. Most of them were in the feather transformation realm. Each of them had heaven-defying strength, and the weakest was in the catastrophe realm. Behind them was an army of tens of thousands. They raised their heads and advanced in unison. Their movements were orderly and imposing. The bows and crossbows in their hands seemed as if they wanted to destroy the entire mortal emperor world. The Lord of the 4 Directions and the Third Prince met up. After asking a few questions, the 20 or so experts withdrew a portion of their divine might. One of them bowed. The source energy of the human emperor world seeped into the Crown Prince's body and finally stopped at the bottom of his feet. 30,000 feet below him should be the human emperor world master's space of inheritance. After hearing this, the great Emperor Dipper immediately nodded to the 3rd Crown Prince. Crown Prince, what are the results of your senses? The auras of the 9th layer are all here. It shouldn't be fake, the 3rd Crown Prince replied solemnly. Another king raised his arm and gave an order to the thousands of experts behind him. Everyone get ready. We're going to cut up this land and help the 3rd Prince fuse with his core. Understood. Thousands of feather transformation realm giants began to fly out one after another. The great Emperor Dipper quietly asked, "Crown Prince, can you sense the aura of the person who stole the immortal cauldron's source energy?" "A little bit. He's right below us. He stole my power and entered the source space that the human emperor world master hid in the depths of this place." "Crown Prince, you don't have to worry. Even if he's a peerless expert, it's impossible for him to refine and absorb the source energy left behind by the human emperor world master in just a few years. Yes, as long as we cut open this land and reveal the space of inheritance, that person will be dead for sure. Our empire has been planning for tens of thousands of years. To think that someone would dare to steal food from the tiger's mouth. We can't let this person off. The other three princes were furious. The master of this formation is in danger. There are still a few experts at the front of the army. Lu Yuan, Prince Shui, and the others were waiting among them. At this moment, Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with unease, especially when he saw more than 1,000 feather transformation realm experts moving out. He was so nervous that he found it hard to breathe. More than 1,000 feather transformation realm experts. A large force only had so many giants. Whoosh! The sky was filled with the auras of the giants. The 4 giants and the 3rd crown prince, accompanied by many elders, arrived at the top of the 1,000+ giants. The giants formed a 10-mile distance and started to gather their strength to form runes. Many feather transformation realm runes immediately flew out and floated above the ground. They started to combine. The aura of the feather transformation realm experts instantly dispersed the aura of the stars around them. Cut! When the runes merged into one and the aura seeped into the ground, the 1,000+ giants separated their hands at the same time and swiftly grabbed at the ground. Chi! Chi! At the edge of the land 10 li below, a sharp, destructive aura suddenly exploded, causing many experts to feel their ears ringing. All the giants let out a cold yell as dust filled the air. Chi! Chi! The auras of the innumerable hands caused the ground that had been cut open for 5 kilometers to be uprooted. This time, they had cut open 5 kilometers of the ground. The magnates released the rune talismans again. One after another, they continued to cut the talismans. Within the space of inheritance. What a powerful aura! Are they trying to destroy the human emperor world? The size of the Renhuang world is huge. It is not something that the Xinyuan Empire can destroy. However, they are indeed decisive in their attacks. With so many Ascendant Transformation Realm cultivators, if they join forces to attack the Green Lotus Sword Sect, the Green Lotus Sword Sect will be destroyed after dozens of attacks. I think it will take some time before they can reach the ground where the space of inheritance is. I can feel that Su Fong has merged with a lot of world energy. I think when the Xinyuan Empire shatters the space of inheritance, he will merge with the human emperor world and become the realm lord. At that time, the Xinyuan Empire will have no choice but to give him away. Younger brother Li, there are too many big shots in the Xinyuan Empire. They will definitely be able to sense each and every one of our auras. Your identity might be exposed as well. In my opinion, we should let them discover the 5 poisons true Qi as soon as possible and let them think that all of this was done by my 5 poisons divine sect. Sect leader, if they find out who I am, I will be hunted down and my family will be exterminated. Our sect is not afraid of them. We will take revenge for the extermination of our sect in the future. On the other side of the Inheritance Spirit Stone Passage, the Lord of 5 Poisons, Li Ziqing, and Sister Yu were still in a state of forming hand seals. The 3 of them had already merged with a lot of array formations. The 2 giants were also communicating from time to time, discussing how to fight with the Xinyuan Empire step by step, deep within the restrictions of the world energy. Su Fong, who had used the ethereal true explanation and used the method of controlling the divine image to absorb a lot of world energy, was secretly communicating with Lu Yuan. The ground layer is quite thick. They have to go through a lot of trouble to cut through it again and again. Master, from the looks of it, they came prepared. If possible, you should leave as soon as possible. There are many people in the Xinyuan Empire, and there are countless powerhouses. They might have other tricks up their sleeves, but that won't scare me. You just need to secretly monitor them. Who knows? You might even be able to contribute greatly to me. Has Crown Prince Shui made any moves recently? Master, with the help of the great Emperor Dipper, Prince Shui has already taken out a lot of precious resources. Some of them even came from the outside world, allowing Prince Shui to advance from the catastrophe realm to the Yu transformation realm. He reached the Yu transformation realm. Yes, Master. Just 3 years ago, the great Emperor Dipper paid a lot of attention to Prince Shui and did not hesitate to raise him to the U transformation realm. The great Emperor Dipper wanted to use Prince Shui to obtain the celestial sealing sex Xianjia Gate. However, the great Emperor Dipper's calculations were very good. Once he underestimated Prince Shui, he would regret nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity in the future. Prince Shui is indeed powerful. He has the strength of the U transformation realm when he was in the catastrophe realm. Now that he has become a U transformation realm giant, he can be considered a top figure among the giants. Continue to get closer to him and make him trust you as much as possible. Yes, after communicating with Lu Yuan, Su Fong was stunned. His powerful enemy, Prince Shui, had actually reached the U transformation realm. When he had fought with him, he was only at the 7th level of the catastrophe realm. Who would have thought that in just a dozen years, after coming out of the Xinyuan Empire, he had already advanced several realms and was now at the U transformation realm? If he returned to the celestial sealing sect, the entire sect would be shocked. Prince Shui is extremely shrewd. He actually used the Xinyuan Empire to strengthen himself. If it wasn't for the Xinyuan Empire, it would be impossible for him to reach the U transformation realm in such a short time. With his talent, he should be able to achieve this. What's laughable is that the great Emperor Dipper thought that he could completely control Prince Shui. Little did he know that Prince Shui had already betrayed him. In the future, it's hard to say who will have the last laugh. However, if Prince Shui reaches the U transformation realm today, Su Fong, will also become a peerless world lord. With a proud smile, he continued to use the ethereal true insight and fuse with the world energy. Not long after, in the inheritance space where the few of them were, they immediately felt some tremors coming from above. As time passed, the vibrations became more and more obvious. Finally, it began to deafen. The Xinyuan Empire had arrived. The Lord of Five Poisons and Li Ziqing activated the formation and came to the edge of the formation. In front of them was the geological layer. The two immediately raised their heads to sense it. I estimate that it will reach here in the next few days, said Li Ziqing calmly. Their divine might is seeping down. The Lord of Five Poisons stood with his hands behind his back. He floated beside Li Ziqing at the outermost formation. 3 days later, a blade of light suddenly pierced through the rock layer and struck the inheritance space. Boom! The inheritance space shook, and then all the rocks above were lifted into the air. The long-awaited sunlight shone down. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless figures flew out from the sunlight. It's the origin of the human emperor world. Another person shouted. All of a sudden, tens of thousands of experts arrived above the legacy space in droves. Just like that, the Xinyuan Empire had carved out a large gash with a diameter of 10 miles. Inside the formation, looking at the large number of experts, Li Ziqing pointed to the center. That's the Xinyuan Empire's 4 marquises. The Lord of Five Poisons nodded. Yes, it's the inheritance aura of the Xinyuan Empire's marquises. It's not the 4 marquises that fought with our sect back then. This is their inheritor. That's the 3rd prince. What a strong origin of the human emperor world. This person's cultivation has also reached the ascendant transformation realm. He's also very strong. It seems that the Xinyuan Empire's overall strength has increased a lot in the past 100,000 years. The two giants' expressions became serious. Their auras became more and more intense. They're finally here, but I can't be distracted. I have to maintain my state of mind and continue to use the demonic disintegration seal to fuse with the inheritance space and the power of the world. With the 2 seniors here, at least I don't have to worry for a while. Su Fong also saw the countless experts of the Xinyuan Empire. He had seen the 4 marquises before and the unfamiliar 3rd prince. Behind them, he also saw Lu Yuan and Prince Shui, who had become Ascendant Transformation Realm expert. He calmed down and left everything to the Lord of Five Poisons and Li Ziqing. Only when he fused with the power of the world and became the Realm Lord could they escape from danger. Chapter 550. Su Fong tried his best to merge and absorb the power of the realm. As he merged, his strength increased. His body also felt like it was connected to the human sovereign world. This also allowed him to understand the ethereal, true solution better. Outside the inheritance, tens of thousands of soldiers and countless experts floated on top of the inheritance space in 3 inner and 3 outer layers. The third prince, the 4 marquises, and a dozen elders were there. Every one of them was a feather transformation realm expert. Chi, a strong aura of the human sovereign world's origin, surged from the third prince's body. He shouted proudly, "Heaven and earth sensing technique." The divine aura immediately swept toward the altar and the inheritance space. The other experts were waiting for orders. Soon, the third prince pointed at the spirit stone. That is the passage to the inheritance space. A portion of the restrictions have been activated. That person entered first and is merging the power left behind by the human sovereign world lord. No matter who it is, they will end up in a terrible state. Merging with the world's origin takes at least a few thousand years, or even 10,000 years. It has only been a few years. How much can that person merge? But this person is one step ahead. I think it will be difficult for us to enter the inheritance space through that passage. Prince, try first. See if you can open the passage by activating the origin. The 4 marquises each said something. Some were opinions, some were analysis of the situation. Each marquis thought differently. After the third prince nodded, he and the 4 marquises landed on the altar. The other experts from the Xinyuan Empire were waiting above. Arriving in front of the spirit stone, the marquises carefully sized it up. From time to time, they would activate their vital energy to touch the spirit stone. In the end, the third prince released the human sovereign world's origin and wrapped it around the spirit stone. The spirit stone could still absorb the origin, but no matter how the third prince used the origin, he could not control the spirit stone at all. The great Emperor Dipper said, "Obviously, to obtain the inheritance of the human sovereign world lord, it is not as simple as controlling the origin." Another marquis with the face of a thunder god roared, "If we can rely on merging to open the passage to the inheritance space, it is naturally a good method. In the end, if there is no other way, we can only attack and break this inheritance space." Spiritual Camel Immortal Cauldron. A marquis next to him released a cauldron. It was the spiritual Camel Immortal Cauldron that had merged with the fragment of the human sovereign world lord's bright wheel. The immortal cauldron slowly landed in front of the spirit stone. The third crown prince came to the center of the spirit stone and the immortal cauldron and immediately activated the origin in his body. The 4 marquises were all mysterious existences, and their seals were constantly being injected into the spiritual Camel Immortal Cauldron. Sectmaster, they want to use the sources of the human emperor world that they have collected over the years, as well as the fragments of the human emperor's bright wheel. Finally, they want to use the power of a Tao artifact to open the spirit stone that leads to the passageway. In the inheritance space, which was only separated by a layer of enchantment, Li Ziqing said with a cold smile. He and the Lord of 5 Poisons could see every movement in the Xinyuan Empire, but the Xinyuan Empire knew nothing about the internal space. The Lord of 5 Poisons said, "The Tao artifact and the mortal emperor world's origin," and then the third prince fused with the trigger spirit stone. The Xinyuan Empire already has a way to deal with it. Fortunately, this is a space created by the Realm Lord. Even if the Tao artifact comes, it won't be able to shake it in a short time. At this moment, the third prince, who was dressed in a golden dragon python robe, suddenly waved his long hair and absorbed the power of the immortal cauldron. The origin of the Ren Huang world, which was 10 times more astonishing, gushed out from his body. After fusing with the Tao artifact's origin, the third prince covered the surface of the spirit stone and then tried to pull the spirit stone out of the enchantment. But after an hour, not only was the energy consumption shocking, but the spirit stone couldn't be moved. Forget it. The third prince looked at the 4 marquises. We can only attack by force. The 4 marquises nodded at almost the same time. Let's attack by force. This mortal emperor world belongs to the Xinyuan Empire. Outsiders can't take it away. Crown Prince. Hundreds of winged transformation realm powerhouses suddenly appeared above the enchantment. The third prince and the four marquises rose from the altar, and the hundreds of powerhouses all bowed. The third prince said, "All of you, listen to my order. All of you, use the sky essence cleaving technique together. This is a technique that the Xinyuan Empire doesn't pass down. Since it has been passed down to all of you, you will be the marquises here in the future when the mortal emperor world is merged. Your descendants will be able to enjoy wealth for generations. As you wish." The hundreds of winged transformation realm powerhouses immediately spread out, wanting to surround the enchantment below. The sky essence cleaving technique was prepared to forcefully open the mortal emperor world lord's place of inheritance. This divine ability was found by a supreme immortal of our empire in the outside world. It is a great divine ability that combined the origin of our empire. The great Emperor Dipper looked down with arrogance, then looked at the third prince. Even if the mortal emperor world lord left this space behind, he has already fallen. The enchantment won't be as strong as it was when he was alive. I estimate that it will take less than 10 years to cut open the enchantment. 10 years is too long. I can't allow that person to steal our empire's wealth. Let's try it first. If 100 people aren't enough, then double the number of powerhouses. If a few hundred aren't enough, then tens of thousands. Prince, don't worry. Of course I am, but I can't allow that person to be so arrogant. We have to try to cut open the enchantment step by step. If the power is too strong, once everything inside is destroyed, it might even destroy the mortal emperor world lord's inheritance. All right, then let's follow the plan. In the third prince's eyes, his face was filled with an aura that could dominate the mortal emperor world. As expected, the Xinyuan Empire came prepared. Heavenly essence cutting technique. In the center of the inheritance space, Su Fong, who had been fusing with the enchantment, was constantly releasing her sensing ability to guard against any external disturbances. She heard the conversation between the four princes and the third prince. She was secretly surprised. The Xinyuan Empire was indeed scheming in order to obtain the mortal emperor world. She also told everything she heard to the two great heads. The Xinyuan Empire has that immortal cauldron Dao artifact, but they can't use it at full power. If they can use the full power of the immortal cauldron, they will definitely be able to break the inheritance space. They have the advantage in numbers. Fortunately, we have already controlled most of the enchantment of the inheritance space. They are about to attack. The two great heads looked up at the same time. Above them, 100 heads formed a circle and floated in the air. Each of them condensed a rune and then flicked their fingers. Chi. Rune after rune immediately collided at the center of the enchantment. Cut. All the heads flipped their hands. Chi. The 100 runes suddenly shattered. They didn't explode, but merged into a white light blade and slashed at the enchantment of the inheritance space where the spirit stone was located. The aura of this light blade was like the strange suns in the sky, blinding them for a moment. Bang! Muffled, thunderous booms exploded on top of the barrier, and then suddenly bounced back, causing many experts to feel their chests tighten and their heads spin. It's fine. The light of the collision disappeared. Hundreds of experts looked at the enchantment above the spirit stone expectantly, but they couldn't see any signs of damage. The great Emperor Dipper ordered, "Increase the power." "Yes, Your Highness." Hundreds of experts condensed runes again. It seemed that the first rune they condensed wasn't the strongest. The space left behind by the Realm Lord is really sturdy. With so many attacks, even large forces like the Green Lotus Sword sect and the Spirit Origin sect will be mostly destroyed, but this enchantment didn't shake at all. Inside the enchantment, the Lord of Five Poisons and Li Zuching didn't do anything when facing the attacks of the experts outside. They wanted to know how powerful the enchantment was. Only then would they be confident. If they have more experts and increase the power of their attacks, it won't be impossible to break the enchantment. My time, Su Fong felt a chill. He suddenly felt that even if he stepped into the Yang Soul Stage 10, he was still weak. The Xinyuan Empire felt like they were playing house. They weren't anxious at all. Everything was under their control. In a moment of desperation, he activated the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda and unleashed his innate ability to raise his strength to the maximum. Then he used the ethereal true insight to double the speed at which he could fuse with the world energy. Boom! After many attacks. This time, the tremors were especially terrifying. The entire inheritance space seemed to be trembling. Sect Master, I feel that the aura of the enchantment outside has weakened a lot. This attack is very powerful. The Xinyuan Empire has already sent out 500 transformation realm experts. 500 per person. Even large forces don't have so many transformation realm experts. They added another 100 people. Looks like you and I are finally going to make a move. This attack might destroy the enchantment. If the outer enchantment is destroyed, the inner enchantment will be even harder to control. Brotherly, just release your magic power. After our sect merges, use all your strength to activate the outer enchantment. Absorb the aura and solidify the defense. Okay, the tremors caused by this attack caused a large area outside to collapse. At this moment, the Lord of Five Poisons and Li Ziqing's expressions were unprecedentedly serious. It was as if a knife was cutting their flesh. It caused the blood vessels under their skin to tremble irregularly. At this moment, the attack from the Xinyuan Empire had reached the peak of a small world's power. Hundreds of transformation realm experts joining forces to attack could only be seen in a war between sects or small world. It was this kind of terrifying battle that was playing out in the Mortal Emperor world. The difference was that one side had hundreds or even tens of thousands of people, while this side only had 4 people. Enchantment Talisman. When the Xinyuan Empire launched a new round of attacks, the Lord of Five Poisons merged with Li Ziqing's magic power and began to condense his magic power and true qi to draw talismans. The speed at which a giant like him drew talismans was 10,000 times faster than ordinary cultivators. With a raise of his hand and a grab of his hand, a large number of talismans were drawn. Moreover, one could see how strong the true qi on the talismans were. Enchantment Talisman, drawing true qi, drawing true qi. These are the most basic cultivation for mortals after they became cultivators. They didn't seem to be heaven-defying, but when mastered to the extreme, they could do whatever the Lord of Five Poisons wanted. They could control themselves and the power of the outside world. Without these foundations, they couldn't cultivate the golden core, the divine aperture, and many other magical powers. Qi, the enchantment talisman, was injected into the enchantment. In an instant, a lot of spiritual qi in the enchantment, as well as the Lord of Five Poisons' special poisonous magic power, activated the enchantment. After the countless enchantments inside absorbed the power, they clearly showed a sharp aura. Oh, at the top of the enchantment, Lord Four Directions and the Third Prince saw the enchantment's aura explode. They immediately froze and raised their eyebrows. Apparently, someone was controlling the enchantment from the inside. A lord said coldly, "Impossible. That person has only been in the land of inheritance for a few years. How can he control the enchantment left by the human Emperor Realm Lord in such a short time? It's indeed unusual. This person was able to sneak into the underground palace of our base and the enchantment set up by our masters. In the end, he went deep into the enchantment, and we didn't notice anything along the way. The most despicable thing is that he sneaked into the spiritual camel immortal cauldron and stole the deity painting from the fragment of a human emperor wheel. He obtained the power of the essence stone and secretly entered the land of inheritance before us. He's indeed a tough one. His cultivation must have reached the peak, and he might have even passed the last tribulation. Without such peerless cultivation and strength, how could he dare to be the enemy of the Xinyuan Empire? Chapter 551. He's a tough nut to crack. Even so, we're only using a portion of our power. Making an enemy out of the Xinyuan Empire is akin to digging your own grave. After hearing the analysis of the four lords, the third prince waved his hand and gave the order. Chi! Another dazzling light blade slashed towards the array formation. Rumble! It was as if the earth was about to collapse, burying everyone alive. It was evident how terrifying the attacks of hundreds of Ascendant Transformation Realm cultivators were. Even after the explosion dissipated, the array formation was still intact. Naturally, there was no result this time. The Xinyuan Empire began to attack again, and more experts were eager to try. They all understood that the Land of Legacy had long been the property of the Xinyuan Empire. Inside the array, Li Ziqing looked at the Lord of Five Poisons on his left. Sect Leader, how are you feeling? I'm fine. With the power of the array constantly pouring into the barrier, no matter how strong the Xinyuan Empire's attacks are, they won't be able to destroy the array in a short time. However, looking at the Xinyuan Empire's momentum, their destructive power will increase soon. The Lord of Five Poisons condensed many array runes. There are many arrays here, and they haven't even destroyed one layer. We have time to waste with them. Let's see when Su Fong can integrate all the inheritances. At this moment, Li Ziqing looked behind him. In the space of the Central World's power, Su Fong, who is activating his innate power, used the ethereal enlightenment to absorb the power of the world twice as fast. His vital energy disappeared from his body again and again, integrated into the space of the surrounding power of the world. Through the integration, it was directly absorbed into his body through the divine image method. If he didn't absorb the power of the world this way, it would take him 1,000 years to absorb all the power of the legacy. The power of the world here was no ordinary power. There is a lot of power of the world in the depths of the human emperor world, also known as the power of the origin. However, most of it was the natural power of the world itself. The power of the origin in this land of legacy was the foundation of the human emperor world's lord's power of the world through refining, cultivation, and integration of the essence of the human emperor world. Therefore, fusing with the origin of this space was equivalent to fusing with the origin of the Ren Huang world that the Ren Huang world lord had cultivated for his entire life. He didn't know how many origin stones, soul essences, spirit veins, spirit stones, and all kinds of origin treasures the mortal sovereign world's world lord had collected in order to become a world lord. In the end, he left behind the world essence in this space. What is a realm lord, and what is the true power of a world? It would take countless years to fuse all sorts of materials with the essence of the world, and by absorbing the essence of the world, it would fuse into the small world. My 6 yang meridians, regardless of the tremors and explosions in the outside world. In the blink of an eye, for years had passed. Su Fong was still absorbing with all his might. He had already absorbed half of the world's essence. As long as he persisted for a few more years, he would be able to completely fuse with the world's essence. Because he had fused with many essences, the energy in his body had long reached the peak of Yang Infant Realm 10th stage. At some point in time, the 6 yang meridians suddenly emitted a vast aura of stars. Previously, Su Fong hadn't sensed the changes in his body, so he focused on absorbing the world's power. But now, because his young infant had grasped most of the inheritance space's formation, he had taken back some of his young infant and started to disintegrate the internal changes. When he sensed it just now, apart from the abundant energy, there was also a deep and cold aura emitting from the depths. This cold aura also brought about vastness, a feeling that could only be found in the galaxy. He finally found the source of the aura. It turned out to be the 6 yang meridians. Quietly looking at the 6 yang meridians, there was a haze, gray, and dark aura in the depths of each meridian. At first glance, it seemed like a galaxy, but most of it was like the sky on a rainy day. The 6 yang meridians each had such an aura. After sensing it again, He finally found that his 9 yang true qi seemed to have perfectly fused with the world essence of the human emperor world for some unknown reason, and appeared in the 6 yang meridians. Could it be that his golden origin core didn't change? He immediately sensed his golden core origin, but it was the same as before. There weren't many changes, and only a part of it had fused with his dantian. I understand now. Although the golden core origin is in my dantian, it's not my golden core. Furthermore, from a moment I lost my golden core and became a void one, my cultivation method completely changed. In the past, the golden core was the source of cultivation, but now it's the yang meridians. No matter what kind of power I cultivate, it will first enter my body and enter the yang meridians, then spread to other places. Therefore, the world's essence first came into contact with the 6 yang meridians, and with the yang meridians as the source of energy, after continuous condensation and fusion, it finally formed 6 auras that resembled galaxies. Furthermore, this aura seems to have fused with my divine image. When I use my divine image, these 6 auras will also explode. Su Fong was extremely shocked. Although he was confused, he quickly sorted out the clues. He immediately communicated with the Vermilion Emperor. The Vermilion Emperor's knowledge was something that even the Lord of 5 Poisons couldn't compare to. After he understood, he lazily said, "Since you don't have a golden core and use the yang meridians as the core of your energy, then when you obtain the inheritance of the human sovereign realm lord, it would naturally be planted in the 6 yang meridians. The 6 auras you see are the representatives of the realm lord's identity, and also a power that only the realm lord has." What power? Dharma world. Dharma world. You should know that the divine image of an ordinary cultivator will become a domain after cultivating to a certain extent. And the final peak of the divine image is called a domain world. It's the foundation of a cultivator's future storage of items, energy, and so on. It's also a cultivator's great divine ability. Once it's used, it can create a large domain that can control enemies, formations, and controls. Dharma world is a domain world. A domain world is formed by the divine image, but a Dharma world is formed by the essence of the divine image and the material world. It's said to be the same, but it's not the same. An ordinary domain world size and power is less than 1% of a Dharma world's. This means that 100 experts of the same cultivation level wouldn't be a match for a cultivator with a Dharma world. Then this is my Dharma world. No, that's the essence of the imperial world. It's not a real Dharma idol world, and it hasn't formed a real world in your body. Even if you fuse with your Dharma idol world, you have to become an immortal to be able to control a real Dharma idol world. Besides, you haven't fused with the imperial world yet. You have to wait until you fuse with your small world to have a real Dharma idol world. I see. He finally understood that the Zhu Emperor really knew a little about everything. He continued to fuse with the power of the world. Now that his 6 yang meridians had the essence of the mortal emperor world, it proved that he was gradually becoming a realm lord. Only a realm lord was qualified to control the essence of the world. 1,000 people, 1,000 feather transformation realm experts. Next, the formation might be broken. Another light blade slashed at the array formation. The force of the vibration shook the Lord of 5 Poisons and Li Ziqing, who were inside the formation, to the point that they were forced to take a few steps back. Moreover, many seals in the outermost layer of the formation were broken. Looking outside, 1,000 feather transformation realm experts were condensing runes again. What was more frightening was that another 1,000 feather transformation realm experts were flying in from the surroundings. In an instant, 2,000 feather transformation realm experts condensed runes together, preparing to use the sky origin cutting technique to destroy the formation. The expressions of the 2 experts changed. At this moment, the Lord of 5 Poisons was absorbing Li Ziqing's magic power. Suddenly, he spat out all kinds of runes formed by the 5 Poisons' vital qi and quickly absorbed the essence of the mortal emperor world. Immediately, they flew into the depths of the formation. After exploding, they turned into countless poison seals and merged the broken seals in the formation. Boom! Another cutting force hit the formation. After heavily damaging the formation, although it did not cut the formation, some broken poison gas leaked out from the formation. Poison gas! The great Emperor Dipper and the three princes were shocked. It's the five poisons vital chi. The third prince looked at the formation in embarrassment. The five poisons vital chi. Could be an expert from the five poisons sect? No wonder. I was wondering who would be so reckless. So it's the remnants of the five poisons sect. Since it's the five poisons sect, why be polite with them? A prince suddenly released his divine aura. Whoosh, 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 another large number of feather transformation realm giants flew over. This time, there were a total of 3,000 people. In addition to the 2,000 people below, there were 5,000 feather transformation realm giants using the Tian Yuan cutting technique. 5 poisons formation runes. They blocked one attack. When the Lord of 5 Poisons saw so many giants, his expression changed instantly. If it were not for the formation's boundary space, even he would not be able to deal with so many giants on his own. A large amount of 5 Poisons vital chi began to merge with the essence of the mortal emperor world, turning into countless vital chi runes. There were at least tens of thousands of them. They were linked together and merged into the formation. In an instant, they turned into a layer of poison gas seals and merged perfectly with the formation. Buzz! A cutting light blade that could split heaven and earth formed and fell from the runes thrown by the 5,000 feather transformation realm giants. Boom, boom, boom. The formation shook violently. The huge force seemed to almost cut it open. Squeak, squeak. When the heavy blow faded, a large amount of 5 poisons vital chi appeared on the surface of the formation. The various poisonous monsters merged perfectly with the formation, like an army of poisonous creatures hibernating under the formation. Again, the 5,000 feather transformation realm giants raised their aura. This time, the light blade hit the formation, causing the entire formation to lose half of its luster. The 5 poisons vital chi also became blurry. That is impossible. It's the real Lord of 5 poisons. The formation almost disappeared, and a man in black floated in the middle. When the 4 princes saw the man in black, they gasped. They did not want to admit it, but they had to believe that the man in black was a peerless giant who had fallen hundreds of thousands of years ago. The third crown prince had no one in his eyes. He suddenly pointed at the 5 Venoms sect master. This emperor sees that you, 5 Venoms sect master, aren't as powerful as the legends say. You are merely relying on the formation left behind by the human emperor world overlords to obstruct the experts of my empire. You, a senior, actually dared to commit theft and infiltrate my empire to steal the treasures of my empire. The Lord of 5 Poisons took a deep breath and did not get angry. Ignorant child, hundreds of thousands of years ago, I killed many strong cultivators of your Xinyuan empire. Even the princes were killed by me. It was I who took the power from the fragments of the sovereign realm. So what if the sovereign realm was not merged with the Xinyuan empire? It does not belong to your empire. It belongs to whoever merges with it. He took responsibility for everything that the Su Fong had done. The formation of 10,000. The third crown prince was furious. He was the third crown prince, but he was ignored by the Lord of 5 Poisons in front of so many people. Another large number of feather transformation realm giants flew over. 10,000, but the power of 10,000. 10,000 feather transformation realm giants merged at the top. Just their aura alone was enough to shake the inheritance barrier. Chapter 552. This was the power of 10,000 feather transformation realm cultivators. It was as if it was going to dig out the entire inheritance space from the ground of the Renhuang world. With a bang, the cutting light blade hit the barrier like a surging wave. The force of the impact and the barrier below formed a turbulent momentum. Squeak! Many cracks appeared on the inheritance array. 10,000 core experts of my empire are here. Can't they deal with the barrier? Even if the Renhuang World Lord was alive in the past, he would still be killed by this force. The third crown prince smiled when he saw the crack. Not only did the barriers show cracks, but many of the surrounding rock layers were also collapsing. The army was activating the empty bags and divine images to sweep away the collapsed ruins. So powerful. Inside the barrier, the Lord of Five Poisons' body was full of poisonous gas. In his eyes, there were countless figures of the Shenyuan Empire. He seemed to have seen the past and nodded to Li Ziqing. The Shenyuan Empire is a huge monster. It is indeed much stronger than it was 100,000 years ago. Previously, I was confident that I could rebuild the divine sect and destroy it. But now, it seems that I can't do it alone. The Shenyuan Empire, the Dao One sect, the Green Lotus Sword sect master. These forces all have astonishing foundations. I reckon that they all have immortals backing them. After generations of reproduction, these sects will definitely produce an immortal. Even if there is no immortal, they will obtain many resources and treasures in the long river of history. No matter how strong one person is, he can't destroy them. Even so, we old antiques cannot be looked down upon by them. Under the runes released by the Lord of Five Poisons, a large amount of poisonous gas formed a network and merged with the countless seals of the broken array. The array gradually recovered. Outside the array, 10,000 feather transformation realm cultivators were still condensing runes. The attack from the Shenyuan Empire went from once a day to once every few days. Now, 10,000 feather transformation realm cultivators could only attack once every few days. The more people there were, the harder it was to control the Tianyuan incisive technique. They could directly condense runes in less than half a day, but the runes drawn by everyone had to be of the same level for the Tianyuan incisive technique to recover. This was why he needed a few days before he could activate the talisman to attack. Over the past few days, the Lord of Five Poisons and Li Ziqing had also extracted the natural origin energy within and fused it with the poison gas from the cult leader. The two great leaders had already blocked hundreds of attacks with a barrier controlled by them. In the end, the most important function of the inheritance enchantment was the seal from the Emperor of the human realm. It could withstand most of the attacks from the Shenyuan Empire. The second attack of the 10,000 people exploded 6 days later. This time, when they hit the array formation, the Lord of Five Poisons and Li Ziqing were also shaken to the point of losing control. A large hole had appeared in the outermost part of the formation. There was strength in numbers. Furthermore, the 10,000 Zune experts were all in the feather transformation realm. Not to mention 10,000 people. Even the combined strength of 10 people was enough to destroy everything. The Shenyuan Empire's determination to win the Renhuang world was evident from the fact that so many cultivators were participating in the attack. There were tens of thousands of soldiers in the sky, and they were currently in formation. It was as if they had sealed off the entire sky to prevent even a mosquito from flying out. It's only a matter of time before the enchantment is broken. From the looks of it now, more enchantments will be broken in a few years. The Lord of Five Poisons is indeed still alive. But so what if he reincarnates and revives? Naturally, he won't be able to reach the same level as he was in the past. Even if he has the strength of the past, can he still fight against our powerful empire? While we're at it, we'll also kill the Lord of Five Poisons in one fell swoop. We'll hang his head on the door of the primordial god world and let the other small worlds know the power of our empire. The great Emperor Dipper and the three marquises were standing beside the third prince. At this time, they could only wait for the 10,000 Zune experts to continue their attacks. If this continued, not only would the Lord of Five Poisons not be unable to obtain the Renhuang world, but he would also be killed by them. In their eyes, the Lord of Five Poisons was digging his own grave. Unless he could integrate the inheritance of the Human Realm Master and become the new Human Realm Master in a few years. Otherwise, there is only one word to describe the outcome: death. Brother Shui, this is incredible. I've lived for thousands of years, and this is the first time I've seen something like this. There were also many experts waiting in the air behind the four marquises. Lu Yuan deliberately went to Prince Shui's side. Prince Shui was with 3 experts from the Celestial Sealing sect. When he heard Lu Yuan's words, Prince Shui's eyes were filled with astonishment. However, he only exchanged a few words with Lu Yuan. It was obvious that Lu Yuan, who had reached the Ascension realm, didn't care about the experts under the Great Emperor Dipper. Crown Prince, the Xinyuan Empire is really powerful. Even if our Celestial Sealing sect is 10 times stronger, we still won't be a match for them. From now on, we can only rely on the Great Emperor Dipper's mood. Otherwise, if we offend him, we'll have to flee back to the Celestial Sealing sect and live in fear. From the looks of it, it's possible that they'll launch a large-scale attack on the Celestial Sealing sect. They'll definitely obtain the Renhuang world and rebuild it. The Xinyuan Empire has 2 realm masters and 2 small worlds. In the 8 galaxies, who can resist them? When Lu Yuan left, the 3 experts seemed to be moved. They were all in the Tribulation realm. In the past, they could be considered experts in the Celestial Sealing sect. But now that they saw the power of the Xinyuan Empire, they felt as insignificant as ants. Prince Shui's voice trembled. Only a realm master can resist the Xinyuan Empire. I must become the Ewatian realm's realm master. Now that I've seen the true power of the Xinyuan Empire, I'm even more confident. With their help, I'll be able to refine the Heavenly Gourd Spirit Tree. The 3rd Crown Prince might be strong, but Crown Prince, your true power is something he can't even imagine. The Crown Prince Society doesn't count for much. In the future, it'll definitely become the #1 power in the Heaven world and its leader. The 3 of us will follow you wholeheartedly. What house of immortal sealing? You won't regret following me. However, it won't be long before I help you reach the peak of the Tribulation realm. Prince Shui nodded calmly. When they looked down at the barrier, they saw that it had suffered a new round of attacks. A large hole had been cut in the first layer of the barrier. The inner layer of the formation had also been affected. It seemed it could withstand the attacks of 10,000 people. The world essence in the 6 Yang Meridians has changed color. The inheritance space was being attacked by the Xinyuan Empire again and again. It was constantly being damaged. Su Fong had already assimilated most of the star-like power of the central world space. Inconceivable. Mostly. What would that mean? Any Ascension Realm expert would need at least 1,000 years to absorb the human emperor's inheritance, let alone several thousand years. But he, a 10th-stage Yang Soul cultivator, had used less than 10 years. Furthermore, he would be able to completely absorb the world essence in a while. World essence. Within his 6 Yang Meridians, the 6 gloomy world essences had actually changed. They had become the color of stars. In other words, 6 galaxies had appeared in the center of the 6 Yang Meridians. The Yang Meridians weren't large to begin with. It was just that the space within them was vast. The size of the 6 galaxies was almost invisible to the naked eye. After releasing the Yang Soul and entering the depths of the Yang Meridians, one would be able to sense the galaxies that were only 10 feet long. These 6 galaxies were the world essences of the 6 world essences. They were the embryonic form of the world master that had fused with the material small worlds. They were worlds. The demonic path in our small world is not strong, but in the great world, there are true demonic path experts who have unified countless small worlds and ascended. Demonic path to Sister Yu, it was too far away. However, she completely agreed with the Lord of 5 Poisons' words. That was because Su Fong's demonic disintegration seal could allow his Yang soul to surpass an entire realm. It was truly unbelievable. It's coming. A new wave of attacks from 10,000 experts formed a cutting force that fell down. Array form. Countless Su Fong's Yang souls suddenly made the same hand gesture. The broken layers of the array and a huge skeleton suddenly began to fuse together. He actually managed to fuse the broken array back together. This subtle change, which happened so abruptly under the attack, was discovered by the 4 princes. Just as they were startled, The cutting force struck the fused array. With a rumble, another large hole was cut open. It's just a desperate struggle. However, the Lord of Five Poisons is truly as extraordinary as the legends say. He has some skill. The third crown prince grinned, filled with killing intent. Origin, condensation. A hole was opened in the array. Su Fang's yang souls began to move once more. They released hand seals and absorbed the origin to control the array. They had worked hard to repair the array, but after a few days, it was once again pierced by the cutting force of 10,000 experts. Fortunately, Su Fang was able to control the inheritance space in time. Otherwise, at least half of the arrays would have been broken by the Xinyuan Empire. In that case, the entire space would have been destroyed in less than half a year. However, the army we arranged around the human emperor world is casting a net towards the Lord of the Five Poisons. Immediately go up and form a formation to protect all the energy in this land of inheritance and help the third prince absorb it. The great Emperor Dipper ordered and led the experts away from the depths of the ruins while the formation was still collapsing. That was close, several kilometers deep in the ground rock layer. The spirit light was only a foot long and did not seem shocking. However, inside this spirit light were Su Fang, the Lord of the Five Poisons, Li Ziqing, and Sister Yu. Looking at the rock layer behind them that was so oppressive that it was difficult to breathe, Su Fang finally felt relieved. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Li Ziqing said, "This time, we obtained the human emperor world's inheritance. It was daunting, but not dangerous. We didn't even put ourselves in a desperate situation. The Xinyuan Empire is well prepared, but they can't control everything. Naturally, there are changes all the time. Luck will change the outcome. But the Lord of the Five Poisons looked at Su Fang. We still left a possibility for the Xinyuan Empire. When we escaped, there was still a certain amount of the world's essence that had not been integrated. I have done my best. In the end, there's still 1% left." This poked at Su Fang's sore spot. He was indeed unwilling to give up. Li Ziqing said, "The world's essence has perfectly integrated with the inheritance space. As long as the Xinyuan Empire is unable to seal the essence in time, the world's essence will return to the depths of the human emperor world. They will not be able to get it. That's not possible. The Xinyuan Empire should have thought of this long ago. Forget it. Let's rest for a while and recharge our energy before leaving the human emperor world. The Xinyuan Empire should have made preparations outside and set up a trap to ambush us." The Lord of the Five Poisons was very tired. He was the first to start devouring the resources. At this moment, in the land of inheritance, the inheritance array had completely collapsed, and a huge pit appeared. Above it, tens of thousands of experts were forming an array. The Lord of the Four Directions controlled the power of tens of thousands of people to form a seal that enveloped the ruins of the land of inheritance. He also channeled a portion of the power into the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. The third prince gradually floated to the center with the spiritual camel immortal cauldron. When he saw the world's essence that was formed by the seal and scattered in the air, as well as some starlight, he gritted his teeth. Damn the Lord of the Five Poisons. He actually absorbed most of the inheritance of the human emperor world lord. We underestimated the Lord of the Five Poisons' ability. Indeed,